Heidi ho, internet neighbors. Welcome to SkepTalk. My name is Aaron. Co-hosting today here is Dr. Blitz. How you doing, sir?
I was doing, and then I stopped doing. So I guess how I'm doing in the past.
Well, hopefully you can be present in the future.
See what you did there. I appreciate it. I will do my best. No guarantees, though.
Even though we're talking about time, I also realize in general we can have a tense situation, and so I'm
stop
trying
it.
to
Stop it. You stop it. Worse, we'll have none of this.
So this is why we have
Lord
super
that
chats.
Erica's not here. She would have been so upset.
Yes. Already right now, if you want to start putting in the super chats, because everything $5 and more, we read at the end. If they're punny, you know we're going to say them punerifically. Is punerific a word? It is now. Add it to the dictionary. More importantly, if this is your first time here, welcome to SkepTalk here on the line. On this show, we have people call in. What do you call in about? Mostly science stuff, skepticism. So if you happen to believe something that may not really be part of the scientific consensus, if you don't think evolution by natural selection is a real thing, if you think the Earth is only 6,000 years old, Big Bang, totally unreal. If you're a flat earther, think the sun goes around the Earth and the Earth is just completely stationary. Oh, if you think Bigfoot is an alien, those sorts of things, we want you to call in. If you think God exists, created the universe, and apparently comes around on grilled cheese sandwiches, call in. Alternatively, if you have an argument.
Alternatively, if you think that it's a good idea that we should mine mercury, call in. Because that's a terrible idea, Forrest. That was a callback for those who didn't get it.
All right. Well, I would say this much. What has Mercury done for us lately?
I don't know. Proved GR?
I said lately. That's been 100 years.
Look, we can keep riding the coattails of CERN inventing the WWW. We can certainly ride the coattails of the precession of Mercury.
Well, honestly, I'm still taking the coattails of Kepler. So, yeah, I'm in no privileged position.
Are you Polish?
No, but I like my 3 laws. It's a number I can count to.
Or wait a minute. No, Copernicus was Kepler Polish or was Copernicus Polish?
No, he was German. Polish? No, at least in modern borders, Poland. Copernicus would have been in Poland most of the time. Kepler was in Germany, though. He also did a fair bit of his research time in Denmark when he was with Brian.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a statue of Copernicus. I want to say in like the main square in Warsaw, which is quite impressive. And I guess it's there are other famous scientists that Poland can be proud of. I don't know why they picked Copernicus, but it is what it is, I guess. They do like to claim Marie Skłodowska, also known as Marie Curie, which reasonable because she was Polish. She just adopted the French nationality, if you will.
I would also want to choose someone who has, I believe, 2 Nobel Prizes.
Yeah, and a third by her daughter, I want to say.
Wait.
Yeah, the most Nobel Prizes in any one family, I think. I think the second group goes to the Thomsons. There's J.J. Thomson, who discovered the electron was a particle, and then his son, who's I don't remember what his first name was, but also a Thomson, who ironically was the person who discovered that electrons are waves.
It almost seems like it was too easy to get those Nobel Prizes back in the day. Now we got
You just gotta machines. just do a thing. You just gotta. What do you mean? You just look at a microscope and you see that the things are jiggly, and then you get a win a Nobel Prize for the Brownian motion or something. I don't actually think that's what happened, but
No, no, not quite so much. But on the other hand, see what it took for like Peter Higgs, where it's like, all right, I have a theoretical prediction. 50 years later, we finally built a machine big enough to check. And
Yeah, it's also tragic because I think that paper was written in it was either 64 or 74 or something like this, but there were two other groups that wrote papers in the same year. Um
hmm,
and so Englert, Browse, and Higgs. So there's Higgs alone, then there's Englert and Browse, and then there was a team of four more who wrote basically a paper coming to the same conclusion in the same year, independently. And if you go to the Higgs boson Wikipedia page, it'll list all of their names as the Englert, Browse, Higgs, blah 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 boson. But the larger team didn't get the prize, unfortunately, for whatever reason. It's you can only award it to so many people, I guess.
yeah. And also, they can only reward it to the living, which I can imagine why you would want to do that because otherwise, every year, and the prize goes to Isaac Newton, and the prize goes to Isaac Newton.
Well, and Albert Einstein, of course. He would probably
Yeah,
get another three, right?
for gravity waves, for proper quantum. I'm trying to remember. No, he did get his Nobel Prize was primarily for the photoelectric effect, so that is quantum.
Right. So he'd probably
But
get it
for
for special relativity, for GR, and well, maybe stuff on the laser, maybe stuff on entanglement with the EPR paper.
mm,
Because those experiments, the EPR paper, the laser wasn't built until what, like 2 years after he died, the first laser. Um, Even though he proposed the mechanism for it. And the EPR paper would have probably won a Nobel Prize from the stuff that won a Nobel Prize 4 years ago. Because this is where the idea of using kind of entangled pairs to probe locality was first proposed. So he would have won a lot of Nobel Prize. Very very clever guy. What would Newton have won Nobel Prizes for? I mean, like gravity, probably.
yeah,
Although actually, maybe he wouldn't have because it got superseded.
true, but he definitely got the ball rolling. You could also say
Maybe
the fact that he
optics.
oh yeah, definitely optics. I mean, considering he did both the construction of a new kind of telescope, he did perform experiments on his own eyes to learn more about optics and
What a
optical
crazy guy.
instruments.
Crazy guy.
That the nature of color. Realizing what the
True.
rainbow is more
Didn't he
fundamentally.
discover infrared?
No, that was Herschel. Yeah, yeah, same person who found Uranus.
I thought that Newton discovered infrared during his experiments with um, prisms. I thought, but I could be misremembering. Oh, also alchemy.
Um,
But he wouldn't win a Nobel Prize for inventing not alchemy. He wouldn't win a Nobel Prize for inventing calculus because that's not.
yeah, but he probably also would have gotten a Nobel Prize for celestial mechanics because he was able to derive Kepler's three laws from his more fundamental
True.
work.
Yeah, the thing is it's one thing to award them posthumously to people who weren't alive when the Nobel Prize existed, but I do think it kind of makes sense to award them to people who were alive during the Nobel era, but didn't live long enough to see their thing come to fruition,
Mm,
Because these are the kind of people that like knew that once their thing was discovered, they would have won a Nobel Prize. And it feels dirty to exclude them from that.
yeah, I would say though there is one practical issue is that the dead can't receive rewards and they definitely can't receive money.
That's true. Yep.
And ultimately, what do these prizes do? They incentivize people to do something to win that prize. And if you say, well, maybe somebody will show that I'm right in 300 years, it's like, well,
Sure.
it doesn't give you much pride in the near term, to put it mildly.
Yeah, I mean the original goal of the Fields Medal was to award people who are promising young mathematicians. That it's to encourage them to, in some sense, like keep up the good work. Not like, oh, you achieved the top prize in mathematics, now you can be done. But it's definitely become that. Definitely become a kind of a Nobel Prize rather than like a promising young mathematician thing.
Yeah. And funny enough, usually the Nobel Prize is like a way of like capping off a career, but I think right now the average age of a Nobel Prize winner is lower than the average age of someone getting an NSF grant.
The average age, the average age of a Nobel Prize winner is lower.
Yes, I think I remember reading that some time ago that and this was even before how
Is
things
that just
got
because NSF
messed up.
grants are for old people? Is that the
Just
claim?
there's so much.
We're
There's
getting yelled at for not talking about the line.
okay. We should talk about the line. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Call
Uh,
720-619-2288. If you think that like, okay, actually, you know what? Here, I will go on a rant. So Aaron, I'm sure you know, about a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago, actually about a year and a half ago, Donald Trump came into office. Obviously, we all know this. But the thing that happened scientifically that is most disturbing to all of us is that around that time, within the first 3 months of the Trump administration, Trump's appointee to the National Science Foundation canceled something like 4,000 grants, just like slashed them. These were grants that were already in existence. They were grants that were paying researchers to do serious science. And then together, between the NIH and the DoD and the DOE, many, many other grants were also canceled as a result of the appointees that Trump put in place. Now, this has been a serious issue, and it's been litigated on for the last year and a half or so. And it just came out about 2 or 3 weeks ago that Trump's administration has now admitted in court that they admitted in court to two very, very disturbing things. That first, they were using internal keyword search tools to essentially control F these grants for words like diversity, equity, trans, just like look to see if that is in the grant, and if it was in the grant, then it was put on the chopping block. So that's now been admitted by the Trump administration, which is horrifying that they weren't actually reading these things; they were just cutting them for political reasons. The second thing is that they have now admitted to cutting grants specifically because they were they were awarded to researchers whose states were not Trump aligned during the election. So there were the Department of Energy had something like 630-ish grants that they were examining at this time in early 2025, and 284 were placed on the chopping block by the Office of Management and Budgeting. This is a White House office. Of those 284, sorry, 283 were placed on the chopping block. All 283 of those were awarded to, or were going to be awarded to states that have, voted for Kamala Harris in the 2024 election. Of the 340-ish, grants that were not put on the chopping block, only one of them was not going to a state that voted for Trump. And this was admitted in court like 3 weeks ago. And so like they were explicitly just cutting science funding because it was going to blue states. And that's horrible. And now it's documented in court. So now, hopefully, something will be done about it. But, knowing the world we live in, of course it won't be. So anyway, that's very frustrating. And it's also a good talking point because it turns out MAGA is anti-science. They just only like science when it's in red states, I guess. Or when it is proving that climate change is made up, I guess, which of course it never does. So anyway, it's upsetting. Be upset.
As we should be. Let me correct myself what I said earlier about Nobel Prizes and grants. I double checked what it was, and what I misremembered is that the average age of a recipient of an NIH grant, the National Institute of Health, that average age is about 43. And the work that people do that get the Nobel Prize, that happens at an average age of around 40 or 41. So you first do your impressive work that gets a Nobel Prize, then you get funding for it. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's honestly, I'm actually much less surprised by that. If only because, if you do something very, very impressive, even if you don't win a Nobel Prize for it immediately, people in your field will recognize that it's important, and so then you're more likely to get grants. But yeah, that it is quite shocking. I'll give you that much. But the NIH, who cares about the NIH? They're not doing real science. They're doing medical. They may as well be human mechanics.
Yeah, especially today, because again, to hop on the things that grind my gears when it comes to this administration and science, just today, literally earlier today, the president decided that he knows more about vaccines than all the world experts. And even though
Love
this is,
that.
of course, the same administrator that had a successful vaccine program when it came to COVID, now reversing course, the executive order that was signed today, and I'm uh, getting the details here as right as I can, is that they are trying to reduce the number of recommended vaccines for children from 18 to 11, and also breaking up the MMR vaccine into 3 shots rather than one. MMR, that's mumps, measles, and rubella. And let's just point out the specific stupidity breaking up that one, considering there is literally a measles outbreak in this country. It is the worst outbreak that we've had in this country in decades, and it's because of low vaccination rates in areas. And what's the administration doing? Hey, let's make getting the vaccine specifically for measles harder to administer. It is the exact opposite of what we should be doing. And why are we doing this? I think there must be an earworm
Because
or something in one of the administrators.
it's almost like one of the people that Trump decided to put in charge of our medical system literally had half of his brain eaten by a worm. It's almost like that. It'd be crazy if
Yeah,
that were the case, you know.
yeah. And fortunately, it's not because the worm got in there, only ate a little bit, realized there's no nutrition, and died.
That checks out. Yeah, so if you think that Trump is good for, science in the United States, call in. Tell us why we're wrong. And then we'll yell at you for being stupid. No, we probably won't. I think Aaron and I are both very, very, probably too chill to the max. Um,
Oh no, I can get wound up. So call in to see what happens when Aaron blows his top.
okay, now I just have to say stupid things to make you blow your top. Did you know that, oh, actually, I recorded it. Hold on. I have no, never mind. I'm not going to pull it up. That would be too mean. I had a conversation with a person today, who was very much convinced that, quantum physics is magic, basically. And so if you think quantum physics is magic, you should consider calling in too and just give me more of an aneurysm than I already had this morning. It'd be delightful, wouldn't it? Of
uh,
course, we have other topics that we could, in principle, talk about, right? So, it turns out that the Earth isn't flat. I imagine that there are probably no flat earthers who are watching this right now because that would require that they actually engage with things that are contradictory to their beliefs, and they would never do such a thing. But in case you think the Earth is flat, or in case your dad thinks the Earth is flat, and you want your dad to call in, and you want us to surprise him, let us know. We will do that. It'll be a bad faith argument with somebody who wasn't expecting a conversation, but it'd still be really funny and good content for everybody. What else do we have on this list? We have the Earth isn't 6,000 years old. Yeah, that's a classic, right?
oh yeah.
Have you heard about the varves at Lake Suigetsu in Japan?
No, I don't know anything about this.
Okay, so varves, it's a geological thing, I think, or a hydrology thing. They're basically layers. And so it's just an interesting fact. So it's a wonderfully preserved lake in Japan. It's called Lake Suigetsu, and as you would kind of expect for seasonal changes, in the spring and summer, you have algae growing on the top, and then in the fall and winter, the algae dies and it sinks down to the bottom, and it deposits. You just get a layer of algae, and then and so you get a layer of algae, and then you get there's like less layer in the or less algae in the layer, and so you get layers, um, building up over time, year over year. These are called varves. And in Lake Suigetsu, I think it's one of the most well-preserved varve systems in the world because there are 70,000 intact layers of these varves in the sediment at the bottom of Lake Suigetsu, which is kind of remarkable because you can actually look in the layering where earthquakes happened, where flooding happened, where volcanoes happened, like volcanic eruptions happened, because that's going to affect either the actual sediment down below, or it affects the algae's ability to grow, and so you'll get thicker layers or thinner layers. It's very, very neat, and it's also one of the greatest pieces of evidence that we have. Not the greatest, but it's a very, very compelling piece of evidence that the Earth is much, much older than 6,000 years old because we have seasonal changes documented for 70,000 years in this Japanese lake. So if people haven't seen this before, they should definitely look into it. It's wonderful, and there's a museum there.
And I had to check because I'm horrendous with spelling in English, let alone transliterating from East Asian. It's Suigetsu.
Yes.
Suigetsu.
Yep. It's really quite an interesting thing. And I don't know how a young earther is going to argue against that. They'll probably just say it was put there by God, I imagine.
The
'Cause
algae is there to test your faith.
exactly. Yeah, I mean that of course algae has the intention of testing our faith. What else would it do? Um, Now what else do we have on this list? We have
Climate
have
change.
Climate change. Oh yeah. Oh, I heard today, and maybe you have thoughts on this. I heard today that even though the climate is changing, the world is actually way better than it was 150 years ago, and it's getting way more livable. Have you heard this?
It might be more livable in Nunavut, Canada, but here in Boston, it's not feeling quite the same.
What are you telling me that the weather's worse? Don't you know that the weather and the climate are different?
Nope, I don't know the difference at all.
Oh yeah, me neither. Honestly, I mean the sun's still out. It's still like it is 106 where I am right now, and it's 4:20. Blaze it.
I was for one of my language teachers, she was telling me that in Korea this weekend it was 44 degrees Celsius, which is like 110, 120. I
Yeah, that's
forget how
crazy.
stupid high that
What?
is. Yeah.
Where in Korea was it 44?
I think like Seoul or places like that. I have to check again, but I was told it's like, yeah, it was 44 Celsius, which was, the thing she was pointing out was it was hotter in Korea than it was in India, which almost never
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, that would be remarkably surprising. I mean, I believe it. I don't think that your friend's lying to you. Um,
Well, she better not, especially because she's my tutor and I'm paying not to be lied to.
yeah, that would be good. Or bad, I guess. Yeah, it's so I mean, what is true is that, as far as I know, less people are dying from natural disasters. Um,
Oh, this.
because we are better at responding to natural disasters, right? Like
Yeah,
less
we have
forests,
warning
like
systems.
yeah, forest fires are arguably less bad. We control them faster because we're better at controlling forest fires. There are some of these things where it's like, oh, you don't have to worry about climate change. Climate change is it's totally fine. We're getting more greenery because the plants love the CO2, and look, world is so livable. It's because we've gotten better at fighting disasters. It's not because we're making the world better.
I remember hearing this talking point that, yeah, like casualties from natural events has gone down. And it's like, yeah, part of it is that putting in tornado warnings or tsunami warnings or things like that. It's like, yeah, that tends to bring down the casualty list, but the fires are still here. And every so often, I can't go outside without a mask because of what's burning in Canada.
Yep. Yeah, it was really bad, like just a month ago. I
Yes.
was in
And this is
Pennsylvania for the time, and it was horrible.
Yeah, and this isn't even the first time I've noticed it. Like the last time I remember there were bad Canadian fires a couple years ago. I went out running because I normally, do jogging and I could remember like, okay, the skies are a bit orange, and as I'm running, I can taste on my tongue the ash, and I realize, all right, this tastes like burned bark. This cannot be good for my lungs. Let me go
The
home.
downside is that it does smell really nice. Like
Yeah,
a
yeah,
campfire smell.
true. But I think actually the smoke from fires is actually even more hazardous to your lungs than
Oh, it's
tobacco smoke.
oh yeah, it's so bad for you. But it does smell nice, which is
Yeah.
a bummer.
So if you want to call in and tell us there's something bad for us, it's actually good. Try to flip the science on us. See if you can mess with these science guys here.
Yeah, I mean, or just call in and tell us that you think that we're crazy nut job lefties who just want to take away your oil and gas and make you drive a Prius. Because I do want you to drive a Prius. You personally, you, Kevin, I want you to drive a Prius. Specifically you, Kevin. And
Yes.
there's gonna be like one guy who's watching whose name is Kevin, and he's gonna be like so blown away right now.
On the other hand, Samantha, you keep driving that Hummer.
Do you think that there are any Samanthas in the world that drive Hummers?
I'm hoping that number is small enough that no one will have heard me say that today.
Okay. Okay. Well, it's recorded. It's going to exist on the internet forever. So you did this to yourself.
Yes. Yep. I've set myself up to run into a wall.
I mean, it's never a wrong thing to run into a wall. Okay. Well, we do have an agnostic on the line
Yes, we
that we
do.
could, in principle, bring in. So let's bring them in, shall we?
I shall. So let us talk with Julian, he, him, agnostic from Canada, though saying
Hi.
agnostic, saying also that God is necessary. This sounds like an immediate contradiction, but first off, Julian, how you doing?
Great, great, great. Thanks for taking the call.
Yeah. Julian, can you explain?
Um, yeah, basically, I came like my whole life I've been really into science, and recently my take on religion has slightly changed. And I wanted to debate on that topic because I have always been with science people. My mom's an engineer. And recently, as I delved into philosophy and started thinking about existence from, like, not from, basically thinking of existence from the observer's perspective and not outside of the observer's perspective, my take on God and religion has tremendously changed. And I think there's some flaws to science in really fundamental ways where basically you need a causality for science to exist, right? So in order to have any type of a logical conclusion, you have a past state and a current state, and you're basically assessing, you're saying, well, the previous state caused the current state. But this understanding of causality exists only in the present. And if you think from first principle, only from observer, really, what are the fundamental dimension of existence? Well, you're saying time is really just an illusion because it exists in the present. And so how can you conclude anything logical for that matter, right?
Why would you think that time only exists in the present? I mean, like, this is almost in direct contradiction with the way that we understand space-time. That it's not just like some illusion, or that it's not like, that it only exists now and therefore you can't have causality. Like, this is at least as far as our best empirical evidence suggests, time is an actual part of our four-dimensional space-time. It actually exists. And so there are causal relationships between different moments of time.
Yeah, but my point is, like, how do you know that when you take an apple and you release it, it's going to fall to the ground? Where your relationship to that is that you remember that last time, like, you dropped an apple, it fell to the ground. But that memory exists only in the present if you're thinking from observer's perspective. Empirical evidence.
Yeah, but that memory is at least, that memory is best explained by a causal origin from something that actually happened in the past.
Yes, but there's no way of proving that this past actually exists.
Right, and Julian, there's no way of proving that you're not a brain in a vat.
At some point,
course,
we would say that you have to have some sort of way of balancing this out with a hypothesis that doesn't sound absurdly ad hoc, such as last Thursdayism, that the entire universe was created just last Thursday, and everything before that is actually just false memories, false artifacts, things like that. It sounds absurd because it was designed to sound absurd. Also, I want to take issue when you said that without time, that logic can't work. Logical inference can work completely atemporally. Socrates is a man, all men are mortal, Socrates is mortal. That doesn't require time. That's just a matter of sets. So even there, we can do plenty of logic without time.
That's totally true. The thing is, there's a limit to attention. So how much can you conclude at any specific time, right? Like, some logical chains are really long, and you can't have the whole logical chain at one time, at any given time in your mind. And I agree that, like, this idea that the world was created yesterday doesn't make any sense. Or does it? So the thing is, if you really look at what existence is from observer's perspective, I have a really hard time, like, trying to understand, like, all of these logical chains do make sense, but there's no way of proving that they arrive in the order of time. You could be creating them as you're thinking about them.
I should note that while a really long logic chain, maybe I can't keep that all in my memory, but they can be written down, and so they can stay statically in a book. For example, the fun proof that 1 + 1 = 2 from the work of Russell and Whitehead is like a 1,000-page tome of set theory and notation, and by the end of it, they show that 1 + 1 = 2. Has anyone dared memorize that whole book? I hope not. But the logic is there spelled out, so you can go through.
Yeah, but the only thing you can remember is the fact that you understood. So you're not remembering the whole chain. You're remembering that you understood the whole chain, or you're remembering. And that remembering exists
okay, look.
in the present.
How does this get us to God being necessary?
Well, that's the point, is that since science doesn't actually fundamentally, even understanding cause doesn't give explanation to anything whatsoever, to what to do, and it doesn't translate to actions at all. And the thing is, for existence to be, you need consistency. If you're trying to define identity, or you're trying to define the tree or anything, if it changes all the time, you can't define it. You can define change, but you can't define the thing. So you either need to have consistency in change or consistency in existence. And for us to exist, we need some type of consistency. So we can have consistent goals, or we can have consistent beliefs. The thing is, science doesn't give anything actionable. So it doesn't give consistent beliefs of
that's
action.
not its job. It's not normative.
Well, that's the point. So this is why God is necessary. This is why, and I'm not preaching God. I'm just saying that God.
That's not a very logical chain.
Yeah, you're making the claim science is not normative, therefore God is necessary. Like not only is it, I mean, yeah, like Aaron said, it's not logical. It's like a complete red herring. That's like saying the gas tank in my car is empty. Salmon is a nice tasty fish. Also, I don't know why I said it's salmon. You're just telling me two unrelated things. There's no justification between the two.
I don't see what you mean, because if I say science doesn't give actionable consistency, God does, and
okay,
there's
the extra there's the extra thing. So what you're saying, and just to clarify, you're saying something like the first part is completely irrelevant. The point is you're saying something like, we need norms to motivate actions. God provides norms, therefore God is necessary. But the argument doesn't work because you haven't ruled out all possible alternatives for generating norms. If you want norms, you can generate norms in a whole bunch of different ways, even without God. In fact, you can generate norms evolutionarily.
I'll also note that if God is there putting out norms anyways, you still have the norm. You should listen to what God tells you. I could have the norm, do whatever God says, but the opposite. It worked for George Costanza, always do the opposite of what he's told, and it worked for him. I think it'll work well for me, especially if it's the biblical God.
That's a great point. And I think it's the concept of higher norms, which is different from some type of evolutionary norm that isn't, and this is completely intuitively, isn't based on anything greater than the thing itself. And so it's just that there's nothing backing it greater than the self.
Why does it need to be greater? Norms are just reasons to do things.
But I have this intuition, and now I'm like, this is, maybe I haven't thought about it long enough, but I have this intuition that what is telling you what to do needs to be greater than the self, because if it's not greater than the self, then it can be contradicted by the self, and you break the consistency.
I don't see. Look, so norms are just those things which drive attitudes or which drive actions, and so I don't see how. I don't know what it means to say that, somehow we need to have a single norm or a single, purpose implemented in us. Otherwise, something goes wrong. Okay, suppose it is the case that, at one day I have a norm that says seeking justice is good, or seeking justice is something that you should do. And another day I have a norm that says seeking Big Macs is a thing that you should do. Okay, that means my norms would change. Why does that break the universe?
I think the point is, and what science does is it always looks for the causality. So it says basically, because of this, than this, right? So because we arrived from evolution, then we must. And the idea of God is just completely forgetting about this causal chain. It's completely forgetting about it. It's like, stop thinking about it. This is the rule. And obviously, as
Why would we want to do that?
Someone, because fundamentally, like, there is a limit to that. There's a limit to science. There's a limit to causality. And being able to predict something isn't understanding it. It doesn't tell us anything about existence.
We're not making the claim
how we are living it.
Okay, so we're changing topics now, though. Seemingly, now we're talking about like understanding the fundamental reasons for like the way a thing is via its ontology, as opposed to like understanding why there are norms in the first place. Like, these are unrelated. So, which one? What are we talking about now?
Oh, we're talking about the necessity of God for a living being from observer's perspective. What I'm saying is basically, as an observer, what is necessary to existence is different than if you're looking outside from a third person's point of view, trying to understand what's going on. God is completely
Julian, as I listen to you,
science,
I don't think you're using necessity in the same way as a philosopher does. To me, it sounds like what you're saying is necessary is you find this necessary to feel a sense of control, a sense of where you need to go, that you need guidance or you need this kind of divine help. But that's not necessity in the sense of like it's logically required. This is what you feel like you need to make your life worthwhile. That's what it sounds like you're telling us.
It's for consistency. So this is what I said. It's like,
but then again, this is actually an issue of closure for you. This is actually, it sounds like an emotional need, because if I have inconsistent goals, I realize, oh, these are inconsistent, I should reconcile. You're saying you want to avoid the inconsistency altogether. That's an avoidance behavior. That's an emotional response, not a logic response.
No. Everybody avoids inconsistency. Like, let's say you wake up in the morning,
I seek it out.
You're hungry.
I look at my ideas and I try to figure out, hey, are these things consistent? I try to find the things that aren't working together so I can try to reconcile or throw out the beliefs that I realize don't actually conform anymore. I realize there's all sorts of things I probably believe that are ultimately false. I seek them out rather than finding some reason to feel like something's completely in control so I don't have to worry about it. No, I explore. I'm curious to find out not only about the world, but my own thoughts about the world and see where their limitations are.
Yeah, absolutely. And towards throughout your whole life, like, there is this consistent belief, or like, maybe your consistent belief is curiosity, but you need some type of consistent beliefs to go through life. Else, it's absolutely impossible. And maybe I'm explaining it wrong.
I'm sure that there are. I'm sure that there are disorders that people have. I don't want to name specific ones because I'm not a medical doctor, but like, think of things like manic disorders or, schizophrenic disorders, these kinds of things. I'm sure that there are disorders where someone's goals are essentially not random, but are fluctuating frequently because, there's something going on in their brain chemistry. They don't cease to exist just because they have different goals that are changing all the time.
I'll also note in things like Buddhism, the idea really ultimately there is or isn't a consistent you that's desiring things all the time. The things that you want, you don't want, changes all the time. And so there isn't actually even that consistent you anyways. And I think there's a fair bit of truth to that. I mean, after all, this morning, I wanted to get out of bed. Course, I don't want to get out of bed right now.
Of course, but there needs to be somewhat of enough consistency for, like, when you're starting to drink water, you have to finish it and actually swallow. Like, you can't stop halfway. So the consistent goal is
yes, you can. Want me to do it right now? I can do it right now.
Hold on. No, mate, you would die. Of course. Watch. You can do it purposefully here.
Oh, no, we can even do it non-purposely. If I was drinking water and Blitz tells me a really funny joke, I'm going to spit it out because I'm laughing.
No, man.
Well known for doing this.
Of course, but the point is, like, if you kept doing this, for 5 days, you would end up dying. So at some point,
yeah, that would be an example of consistency, not inconsistency. That would be an example of consistently doing that.
Well, yeah, but like let's take all possible behaviors instead of reducing the possible landscape to one behavior. And you're saying, okay, I wake up to go make myself breakfast. Halfway through the process, I want to go pee. I start to go pee, but then I want to go do breakfast again, and then I walk back and forth, and I just die in the middle.
So no, I've resolved this. I just pee at the same time. It's really convenient. Just do everything at once.
No. But I mean, more seriously, it's like obviously the case that it would be evolutionarily advantageous to finish the things that you start, because otherwise you would never be able to finish finding your food.
But
yeah. So like this is why we are like this. It's obviously evolutionary advantageous to not get distracted so much.
Yeah, I'm very glad that we as a species evolved on the savannah before TikTok, because I'm pretty sure if TikTok existed 2 million years ago, we would have been very extinct. This entire genus would not exist.
Somebody should try giving TikTok to chimpanzees.
Oh, that's
or is that animal cruelty? Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, no IRB is going to approve that.
No, but basically, and if I go back to the disorders you talked about, it's really hard for me to think about these disorders because I can't experience them from observer's perspective. And so the reality of someone that has some type of disorder is really, really different from mine. And actually, since I am locked inside of my observer's perspective, I have no idea if you guys actually exist, and if I'm talking to anything, or if this just is, and time is super hard to comprehend if you're thinking from observer's perspective. But it's like, I don't know if this, in what order this is being created. Am I just bringing attention to something and the thing is being created as I'm bringing my attention to it, or does it exist outside of me and am I just experiencing it? I have no way of knowing that, and science can't tell you that neither, because you will always be experiencing from observer's perspective.
Yeah, and here's the thing: you could never know that God exists either in that sense, right?
No, absolutely not. But it gives more consistency of action.
You mean believing in it does?
Of course, because it's not even about the belief; it's about consistent beliefs or consistent goals. And belief of God is more consistent because it is outside of logic, and so you can't break it. But there is a fundamental limit to logic.
And if it's outside of logic, then it is broken.
Yeah, and not to mention, if it can break logic, then you've lost any chance of consistency, because then God can exist and not exist at the same time. You've now made the most inconsistent possibility to happen. I think you might have. Now you're scaring me. This is the possibility.
No, but like it's not about proving that it exists. It's about the belief that is consistent. Like,
so are you saying that it's necessary to believe that God exists in order to have consistency in your life?
I'm saying it's necessary to believe. I'm not saying it's necessary to believe in God, but God gives consistency. The way science cannot, because science has fundamental limits that God doesn't have, because logic has fundamental limits.
So again, that contradicts. If God doesn't have limits, there's no reason to say that that God will be consistent, because that would be a limit on God. On the other hand, on at least science, if there's only one natural, reality to go out there, we can never ultimately be inconsistent with what it says and be right. So if Blitz and I do experiments, we should be getting the same results because we're measuring the same fundamental reality. That is more likely to get us to consistency. Well, when it comes to God, a God that is limited by nothing, then there's no reason for that. I'll also note, if you look at most theisms, the gods that people have believed in historically have been just as fickle, just as changing minds, just as duplicitous as any humans have been. And the God of classical theism is so abstracted that even knowing what that God, quote unquote, wants may not even be a reasonable question.
That's a good point. I think ultimately it's not necessarily about building a world of understanding or of predictability. And like if you just believe in God and you ignore science, then there's no predictability. The point of science is, since you understand the causal chain, you can infer an end state from the current state, because you can infer the causal chain. But that causal chain, there's no way of proving that it actually exists, because you could be creating it right now as your attention is focusing on it, because of observer's perspective, and because we can't actually know if time is
so
real,
you
or
use the
if
phrase
causality is real.
observer's perspective a bunch of times. I think I need to back up, because when you keep saying observer perspective, you're making it now sound like the observer is causing the reality in front of them. And I don't know if that's what you're trying to say. I want to be clear.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that that's completely possible. There's no way of knowing if the reality isn't caused. Like, if you think of like the fundamental reality from observer's perspective, you're saying, okay, the fundamental dimensions are senses, and then my attention moves through senses, and there's ways these senses and these input connect. Some you would call causal connection, because when you think of something, then you think of the state after that. And so these are two different states, but when you bring your attention to them, they appear together in the attention space, right? Whatever the cache is, whatever, how much information your brain can have. But like, these two things are together because they're at the same time in the same place inside of attention. That would be a causal relationship. Now, there's other types of relationship, but science is all about causal relationship. It's two different states that are somehow connected together. Like the fact that when I drop the apple falls, these are two completely different states, but somehow in attention, when I'm thinking about it, these two things are together. That's all I have access to, really, as an observer. If
It sounds like you're running into Hume's problem.
Fundamental,
like you're just taking a Humean approach to laws of nature. But like, and that's fine. You can still recognize that there are laws of nature. They're just merely descriptions of patterns. Like you're describing like the problem of induction plus a Humean approach to the laws of nature, which fine, but I don't see why this makes God necessary.
Since I have no way of proving that any of this is actually a result of any causal events, since I have no way of proving that, then I can't base my actions on it. So you need something that's outside of logic. I'm not saying...
Julian, how about this? Maybe this will enlighten you.
Go ahead.
If I can't rely on any of my senses, then I don't have hands. I do have hands, therefore I can rely on my senses.
Well, yeah, like, but it's not... That's just like an intuition. There's no, like... There's nothing fundamental about that.
Look, do you think what do you think is more likely, that we can't rely on our intuitions or on our senses, or that we have hands?
Intuitions, or that we have hands?
That we do you think it's more likely that we can't rely on our senses, or do you think, or the alternative is that we do have hands? I don't know.
Like
you wait. There's no way. There's no way you're being serious. There's no way you're thinking, well, it's a 50-50 shot. I either have hands or I can't rely on my senses, and I'm not sure which one. Like, that's obviously not the case. You don't live your life that way.
Of course not. But that's the whole intellectual argument. It's like
so the point is that you have good reason to accept premise one. If you cannot trust your senses, then you don't have hands. You have good reason to accept premise two, that you indeed have hands. Therefore, you have good reason to accept the conclusion that you can trust your senses.
It's not about the senses right now. Like, the input I'm receiving is my reality. So this,
okay, how about this? How about
this? It's the reality.
Okay, we can do it again. Premise one: if I can't trust my memories, then I don't have hands. Premise two: I do have hands. Conclusion: I therefore can trust my memories. And you can replace I do have hands with anything.
Then I don't have hands. Yeah, well, obviously, but like if I close my eyes, but I can feel my hands right now. But like, if I close my eyes, I don't know if the apple that I drop will go to the ground or up. You know what I mean? I don't know if gravity will bring things down. I actually don't. And if I think about the causal chain, then I can infer, like, currently,
you're just
well,
I mean,
Julian, I
memory
think we
from
can
the
actually test that. We can test your intuition there, because even if you close your eyes, if we have the experiment where, again, I'm going to put Blitz in the not so safe driver's seat, he's going to hold an apple above your face. You close your eyes and he's going to drop the apple. Do you think the apple's going to hit your face because you're not even looking at it?
well, in that moment, I don't know, and I can take
there's no way you're
memory
being
and say,
honest.
okay, but fundamentally, you cannot know, because
Fundamentally, you
even,
would flinch,
oh, yeah, for sure, but that's because of the memory
which
that
means
exists
that you
in the
actually
present, but that I have
exactly.
no way
Okay,
of.
yeah. Okay, great. Then we've reduced the Morian shift. If I can't trust my memories, then I wouldn't flinch when someone is about to drop an apple on me. I would flinch when someone is about to drop an apple on me. Therefore, I can trust my memories.
No, because there's a difference between like the actions you take and the logic or the reasoning you can perform, and so that, like, the
Julian,
action,
I also need to point
if
out
it's,
something here, because all of this is you trying to get to God, but you keep saying like such and such from an observer point of view. You realize that everything you've done would also then be a same problem for God. God would have to also be sitting there in his almighty throne room of whatever supernatural sort we might imagine, and he would also be asking himself the exact same questions. Can he trust his memory? Does he actually have hands? Where's consistency coming from? Because if you're saying this is an observer effect and all you can be certain about is their own existence and nothing else, you basically now are pointing to something, say, this is my only sense of certainty, and that person is biting his nails with the exact same uncertainty that you're creating. I don't think you've gained anything.
that's a really great point, and that's why you have to say, I don't understand God. And the whole point of God in that sense is just to arrive to a point to say, I am outside of any logical chain. I am outside of all of this. I have this really fundamental, consistent belief, and that's it. That there is
Okay,
something.
so what you're describing then isn't like logic or philosophy in any or science traditional sense. This is mysticism.
It's an appeal to the
Well,
unknown so that you can resolve your internal tension.
and it's the best form of appeal that talks to our reality, and that's why it's so appealing. Like, and that's the point. That's the point. That's the whole point. It's like, it's basically saying, I don't know, but in the most human way possible.
Yeah, that's what you're doing. You're just saying I don't know, and then you're trying to invent something so that you do know. Why not just say I don't know and be done with it? Why invent the God?
Because it doesn't bring as much consistency. It's not as a
But
human
Julian, you
as
keep talking about
God.
consistency, but your own argument, you said, is not logical. It actually isn't consistent. It's literally hung on there for emotional appeal.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, the only thing that can remain consistent is the belief. Like, I can reason that I can't reason.
Wait, hold on.
You know what I mean?
How do you know that your belief is consistent? Wouldn't that require trusting your memory about what your beliefs were?
Yeah. The thing is, what? Yeah, of course. Yeah. And if you look,
but you can't trust your memory. So
it's,
how do you know if your belief is consistent?
Also, you probably have lots of
you
different
can't.
beliefs. How are you so sure that they're all consistent with each other? Have you been able to check all of your beliefs against each other? You probably have billions of beliefs. That's so many more combinations that you can actually compare and contrast. And then, of course, you have to remember all the work you did to check that they were consistent.
And then trust that memory after you've done the comparison.
Yeah, I think it's more about coming back to the strongest feeling. And this is the only way of, like, you can't logically prove God the same way you can't logically prove science through observer's perspective. Like, if you truly look at your senses, you can't prove it. Now, the only question is, like, what is most appealing to this existence, to our existence? And this is why religion is so popular. It's because it's designed to be an image of the ununderstandable.
Why would we put a name on that which we can't understand rather than just saying, I don't understand it?
Because it's less appealing to existence as a human.
Okay, well, so you're saying it just feels less good?
Well, yeah, ultimately, yeah.
Okay.
You are basically repeating Marx
But
now, that religion is the opiate of the masses.
repeat that.
You're basically repeating Karl Marx when he said that religion is the opiate of the masses.
The opiate of the masses. Well, like
As in,
there's
it
a
basically it's
big
there to make
negative.
people feel good, because if it weren't there, then people would be mad about their material conditions. And of course, Marx would put it with his philosophy and history of, well, communism ultimately being the final result. But main thing there is the idea that religion is there just because it feels good, not because it's true. And while I think that has some explanation for religion, it's far from a complete explanation of the grand diversity of what humans have been doing with God beliefs for thousands of years. Not to mention the lots of beliefs that people have in religion that really scares the hell out of them in a terrible way.
Yeah, but being scared can also bring consistency. Like it's not only like you're
Oh
not
no, no.
you're
When you are
not
scared,
motivated
when you are
only by.
panicking, you don't do anything that you don't come after and it's like, oh, I regret doing that. When you say I panicked, that's usually an excuse for why things did not go as you wanted. I'm sorry, I panicked. Uh,
No, of
I
course,
really
but
don't
like
know why you
I
would
don't
also
think.
start advocating a belief system that literally says you now need to be scared and somehow find that comforting. I feel like we've really got off the deep end.
But I don't think people are panicking the idea of hell every day. But
Oh, no,
I
no,
Oh, you'd be
no.
mistaken.
One
as
of
I
Julian, just one of the groups that we help support here is Recovering from Religion. This exists for multiple reasons, and part of it is that people still like wake up in cold sweats because of what they were taught about hell. Even when they become atheists, it's still so ingrained in their psyche that it still scares them as secular adults. So, no, unfortunately, hell has
yeah,
really
okay.
scared the hell out of people.
Then for sure, and this is why I also said I was an atheist, because I don't believe in any one religion. I just say that the idea of God or of a greater entity is compelling.
Well, that's not particularly helpful for us because it sounded
No,
like you were saying something else earlier.
Yeah.
well, no, mate. I would defend just for the sake of it, like anything. It's just that if we're really going to debate about religion, like truly, in my mind, fundamentally, we have to say, look, at the end of the day, we can't have we can't really prove causal chain from observer's perspective. So science really doesn't give us that much, or at least
Julian, I
if
have to
I'm
say your
really
entire
thinking.
argument here is really just you're not certain about something, therefore you need this to feel more comfortable. And if that is what you are doing, then it's not a place where there's rational argument to really be shared at this point. Over and over again, it's just
No,
basically been,
no,
I don't know if this is true, therefore I'm going to believe this because it makes things feel better. That's really what
it's
this has
not
been
that
for
I
half
don't
an
know.
hour.
I'm saying it's impossible to prove. Like literally with reason, it's impossible to prove logic. Like it's not about a feeling. It's like if you're thinking from observer's perspective, there is no way of proving causality.
Well,
I
you
would
know what
say
we can
even so,
prove?
no what?
You know what we can prove from what we can prove from the observer's perspective? That time is a closed loop because I'm pretty sure that we've been running in circles for 20 minutes now.
34 according to this device.
No, but I
Who
will
could
leave you
know?
guys to it if. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, but like I don't wanna make you guys waste time. It's a genuine argument I've been contemplating with, and I feel like there's actually no answer to
Look,
that. You can't
look. No,
actually.
no. Here's the thing. The argument that you're promoting is global skepticism, right? Global skepticism can't lead to any conclusions because any reason that you would come to, or any conclusion that you would come to via an argument from global skepticism would require premises that you are globally skeptical about. So there's no way that you can come to any conclusion, any reasonable conclusion from a globally skeptic position, including the existence of a god. There's no rational way to
No,
come to that conclusion. So
sure, but no, this is why I'm saying, look, there's no rationality like that. Here's the proof. There's no rationality. Then, from that standpoint, from this axiom, there's no rationality. What do? Then you go with feelings, right?
oh no, I think that that's probably mistaken, if you will.
And Julian, I'm
How
going to
so?
also make an interesting observation in the following way. This sounds like the sorts of thoughts that freshman philosophy majors tend to go through their first philosophy course. I'm looking at your age and realizing you're probably having an experience that millions of people of your background will have had. So all I can tell you at this point, as an old man, it gets better. So it's going to be all right. Don't you worry.
No, but it's
Just
not.
make sure that
It's
you
not
take your
at all.
Philosophy 102 course as well.
Yes.
I did. I did 102, but this is not at all unpleasant. It's all curiosity, and it's all really for the sake of actual arguing. But the point is like it's what I said. It's like you can't prove causality, so you can't have any real reasoning. But like, there's no argument against that.
Well, actually, I gave you one earlier that we can do reasoning completely independent of time.
Yeah, in the scope of attention, how much attention can exist at any given time, including the fact that you can remember that you remembered.
P1, P2, conclusion. It's all about the structure of the argument, which is a completely atemporal setup.
Yeah, but like you can't have the whole argument in your head at one time. Therefore, you must remember that you remembered that the
I can do it
argument
right
worked.
now. Socrates is a man. All men are mortal. Socrates is mortal.
Yeah,
I held that in my head just fine.
I don't know the whole attention, how big the attention is. I don't know how much space there is truly, and so where does the remembering that I
just showed
remember
you there was more than enough
like,
for me to make one complete argument, go from premise to conclusion, and have it follow completely both. The terms now escape me for soundness. Yeah, it was a completely sound argument, and I had it completely in my memory. Apparently, the word sound wasn't in my memory until just now, but I can hold this in my limited RAM, and that's because of two things. One, it's not that long of an argument. Two, I had a sufficient amount of caffeine.
yeah, of course. And it's really hard to talk about this because, like, now as I remember what you just said, like, I can't. The point is, you can't hold all information at once. It's impossible. So there's some level of compression happening, but it's hard to pinpoint where the compression is happening, especially in real time, because it would require you shifting your attention. But the point is that since there is that compression, and the longer the argument gets, the bigger the compression gets, then, like, at some point, the point is that the attention cache is always maxed out, regardless of where the attention goes.
Also, that doesn't require not knowing anything because very often in mathematics, we just build on the previous work. So all we have to do is just basically keep ratcheting forward. You don't necessarily have to remember the earlier premises. You can just keep building and building and building.
Of course.
So even there,
that's
you don't
exactly
have to have everything
like
in your memory to be able to prove the next thing. Like, now, I'm no professional mathematician, but if I go read some of like the modern geometry books and the theorems there, I could probably build some new theorem based on those without having to go all the way back to Euclid's Elements.
Yeah, but that's where the flaw lies. It's like when I'm doing math, I'm not reproving that 1 + 1 = 2, but I have the thought that I remember that it works, but that just maxes out the cache, and so truly I have no way of proving that when it's happening, at least. You know what I mean?
Yep, it sounds like you're getting into global skepticism. So, look, all I'm going to say, Julian, before we let you go, is that you should enjoy the brain vat that you've been given by your overlords, and hopefully you'll find some consistency in life. Anything else you want to say, Aaron, before we drop in?
No,
also, be happy that when it comes to that brain of yours, you're able to get it some medical care up in Canada. We're having a harder time with that here in the US of A. So, stay healthy, keep learning, and
things are great.
Enjoy your brain vat.
All right.
Okay.
Good night. Okay.
Solipsism. That's a great first call. Great first call.
Well, the thing is, because I'm the only true solipsist and everything else is a figment of my imagination, I somehow hallucinated that entire call and your consciousness of not enjoying that call.
That's crazy because I am the one true consciousness, actually, and I'm hallucinating you, telling me about your hallucination of me.
Well, I am he is, you are we is, and we are all come together.
This is a Beatles reference.
Yes, and I am the walrus.
How high do you think they were?
For that album, quite. Also, fun fact. The Beatles went to the estate of J.R.R. Tolkien wanting to do a Lord of the Rings movie. Tolkien told them no, and so then they took that money and made a Magical Mystery Tour.
Have you seen
Now imagine that.
Have you seen, completely or slightly related, there's a music video where Leonard Nimoy sings that Hobbit song wearing a turtleneck.
Yes.
It's so delightful.
Oh, yes. Yes, that is, the song of the bravest little hobbit of them all. Yes, it's on YouTube.
It's so good.
It's from...
It's got to be the 70s, right?
No, I think it's from the 60s, and it might be pre-Star Trek. I'm not 100% sure.
Crazy if that's pre-Star Trek. Why would Leonard Nimoy be involved? Anyway, we do have another guest we should probably bring up.
Oh, no, I have to find out when the Ballad of Bilbo Baggins was performed. There's an entire Wikipedia page for it. 1967.
We have an actual... that's during Star Trek, actually.
Yes.
I think Star Trek finished airing in 69. So we have one James on the line who's a theist. Shall we bring them up?
Yes, let's bring on James, theist from Connecticut. Do we need God? So that sounds more like a question than statement, but either way, James, welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How you guys living tonight?
You know, I just had like a Coke that has like 90 milligrams of caffeine in it, and somehow I'm more tired than I was 30 minutes ago. So, you know, it is what it is. Anyway,
listen, sometimes caffeine has the exact opposite effect that you want it to have.
I know. Anyway, it says you're a theist. So
yes, I am.
And yet it sounds like there's a question. Do we need God? Is what the call screener wrote.
Yeah, it looks like, because that was the prompt on the banner on the live stream.
Okay.
So I thought that was the prompt. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So sounds like you're a theist. So you probably think yes.
Well, I just want to engage with the prompt as accurately as I can. So I would ask, in the context of that prompt, what are we defining God as, and then what do we mean specifically by do we need God? I want to start by defining all the terms, and then we can construct the prompt or deconstruct the prompt from there.
Yeah, I think that the word God, at least used in the West, usually refers to some sort of creator being, something that is perhaps responsible for creating or being the foundation to all of physical reality. It's also an agent, meaning it has a will, meaning that it has perhaps it's capable of taking actions, or perhaps it's capable of actualizing the potential, whatever it might be. This is at least kind of traditionally how it's understood. And of course, you can add extra properties like it loves us, or it knows everything, or it has all of these powers. But, you know, those are additional things you can add on top. And then when we say, do we need God? What we're really saying is do we need God? Like, is God a necessary part of an explanation for how the world got here? Do we need God to explain the way the world is? And our contention, of course, is no. Presumably a theist would have to say yes.
Okay, so yeah, I just want to just make sure we're all on the same page. We're all three of us are working from the shared framework that, in simplest terms, God here is just essentially a supreme creator.
Sure.
It's a workable definition.
Yeah, but in simplest terms, yeah, okay, we'll go with creator. Okay, so
yeah.
I would say that, well, so you're saying, and then need there in this context would denote that we don't need to have the concept of a creator being to explain how the world works, or how the universe works, or how the universe even exists. Is that what we're working with?
Yeah. Okay. It's not a necessary component of the explanation.
Okay, so from my understanding and point of view, I would say that there is evidence for the existence of a creator of the universe, creator being the definition of which is something or someone that brings something into existence. The word create means to bring something into existence. So our universe is material. Matter is not eternal. Our universe exists, right? So if something material does not, and then, well, let me get ahead of myself. We also know that our universe had a beginning. right? 13.8 billion years ago, the most widely accepted cosmological view is the Big Bang Theory. It asserts that 13.8 billion years ago, the universe began. So our universe exists, it began, and it is material. So according...
Would you be surprised to know that most cosmologists don't agree that the Big Bang says anything about the universe having a beginning?
Well, but is your contention that the universe did not begin then?
The contention is that we probably don't have enough information to say one way or the other right now.
So if we're not saying one way or the other, would it be fair to say then that you two can grant the position that it did begin? Well, you would be able to see how that's feasible.
So if the claim is that it began, as in there's a first moment of time, I mean, like, I'm happy to defend that, or I'm happy to grant that for the sake of argument. But just so then it is strictly not the case that the mainstream view is that the universe had a beginning 13.8 billion years ago. That is if you will, that is a. Oh, thank you, Aaron. That's exactly what I was looking for. That is it's an old view. It's like 40 years out of date.
Okay, so then maybe I'm just out of touch with what the Big Bang Theory currently says in this modern time.
Yeah, honestly, I had to change my own realizations of what the Big Bang refers to because its index has kind of changed. The better definition now of the Big Bang is that the universe, the observable universe, was in a very hot, dense state 13.8 billion years ago. And before that, often one of the models is that there was inflation. How far back that goes is very debatable. So yeah, it's a big, what happened before the Big Bang is very much the land of
big
theorists,
open question.
Which means theorists have a lot of fun.
Yeah, it really is a lot of fun, actually.
So currently, the Big Bang Theory, as we know it in 2026, does not make any sort of assertion one way or another about whether or not the universe is eternal or had a beginning.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll restructure things a little bit then. So I guess if you are both contending that you cannot make an assertion one way or another, again, could you grant, I think you said you could grant for the sake of argument, that it's feasible that the universe did have a beginning?
Well, I don't know if it's feasible, but I'm happy to grant for the sake of argument that the universe could have a first moment of time. Now, there's going to be a way that people will interpret beginning as if it's a thing that happens, like a beginning is a thing that happens, rather than as kind of like just a description of what is the first moment of time. They kind of like, and the reason why I'm giving this caveat is because we think of like a chair having a beginning as like there was a moment in time before the chair existed, and then afterwards there was a moment of time in which the chair existed, and so we would say that the chair beginning to exist was something that happened. But when we're talking about reality as a whole, or the universe, whatever, this is not that if there is a first moment of time, there is no time before it, right? So it's not like there was time before it, it wasn't like there was a before the universe existed and then the universe existed. There's just like it's a meaningless concept to consider before the universe or before the first moment of time. We'll probably run into some tensed language problems here. But suffice it to say, there are ways that you can talk geometrically about a universe that has a first moment of time and yet never didn't exist. Do
you mind if I ask you to explain that more to me? Just I'm not discounting that could be obviously true. I just want to parse it out more. Yeah.
So here's the analogy, it's a fairly common one. But suppose that we think about suppose that we're on the surface of the Earth, right? If you go east-west, you can just go east and west. Those are the different places that you can be. Now, one could imagine that the equator is the first moment of time. If you go more north of the equator, you're more forward in time. So say 0 degrees north is the first moment of time. 1 degree north is 1 minute later. 2 degrees north is 2 minutes later. 3 degrees north is 3 minutes later, and so on. You can still travel east and west. You can move, and so if you were moving faster, you would travel east more than you would travel north. If you were moving slower, you would travel north more than you're moving east, because if you're traveling slower, then that means you're traveling more through time than you are through space. So think of east and west around the globe as like traveling through space. think of traveling north of the equator as traveling through time. So the equator would be the first moment of time. The southern hemisphere would just be only space. So, and that's the hard part to wrap your head around. There's no time in the southern hemisphere. It's just, you can go east and west, no problem. But you can also go south, but that's just more space. It's not time anymore. And so you can think of the equator in this picture. The equator is kind of playing the role as the first moment of time where time turns on. Everything before the equator is just space. Everything after the equator is moments of time. But importantly, even if you go back further than the first moment of time, there's still stuff there. There's just no time anymore. There's still like the southern hemisphere. There's just not time happening. And so that's the kind of thing that you could use to describe a first moment of time with a universe that never didn't exist.
Okay, so you're saying that it's possible that there. So in simplest terms, are you saying that it's possible for the universe to have been in a state where there both was a first moment in time, but also somehow it's plausible that it was eternal as well? Like just in simplest terms, I'm trying to understand what's being said.
So sort of. A better way to, so the way that I would phrase it is that you could say that there is like a first moment of time is compatible with with there being a static state beforehand, like a static timeless state beforehand.
Okay.
And I'm using beforehand very, very loosely here because it's not literally before, because before implies time. It's like before in like a kind of connected sense. And like, you know, you could say that like the number 0 or the number -1 is before 0, even though it's not like before temporally.
Gotcha. Okay. So, and when you say the point, or like point of time, like, does that denote that is that denoting that is when all time started or began to exist?
Oh, yeah, it would be the first moment of time.
Are we saying that there? Okay, so we are conceding then that the first moment of time has a beginning, has a definite beginning.
It's hard to. I mean, it's not that the first moment. Like, I don't know what it means for a moment to begin, but it would just be there's somewhere in our space time that has where, and that's the first moment of time, and then there's somewhere else where there's like the 19th moment of time, and then there's somewhere else where there's no time at all within our.
Yeah. Well, I guess moment. I would be using moment there loosely as well myself, like instant or circumstance or whatever. Yeah, like like in a synonymous way with those words. Yeah.
Yeah, so like that's at least a plausibility. This is this idea goes back to the 80s with Stephen Hawking, something called the Hartle-Hawking no boundary proposal. But there have been more modern conceptions. There was a paper that came out 4 months ago describing an alternative version of this idea where you can actually have multiple first moments of time in an otherwise infinitely large non-temporal universe. So you can have basically different kind of branches of time springing up. Not springing up temporally, but kind of like being in certain places, and so they can just be separate from each other, and so you can have different timelines running in different directions. And that's very weird, but it's a thing. It's the kind of thing that people are taking seriously, and it doesn't seem like that needs a creator.
Okay, so all right, so we'll get back on track. Thank you. Also, thank you very much for going through all that, breaking that down. I really appreciate that.
Yep.
Awesome. But yeah, so whether we call it first moment in time or first moment of creation or what have you, again, our universe is material. We know that matter is not eternal. We know that matter can be both created and destroyed. So within our universe that is material itself, the way in which material things behave, something material cannot have been brought into existence either by itself or by nothing. Right, it had to have been brought into. If something material exists, it had to have been brought into existence. For example, if I see a painting, I know there had to have been a painter that painted that painting. If I see a building, I know that there had to have been a builder or a set of builders that built that building. So the way in which matter behaves is that if it exists, it had to have been brought into existence by something or someone. Again, the definition of the word creator, something or someone that brings something.
But that's also not
existence.
Necessarily true. Even like in the same way that time can arise kind of geometrically in this way where it's like the equator of the Earth, You could have
Mhm.
like there can be stuff in the southern hemisphere, and that stuff is connected to stuff in the northern hemisphere, and it's still stuff the whole way through. It's just when you're south of the equator, it's static stuff. It's non-temporal, and when it's north of the equator, it's temporal. It's dynamic. And so there's no in this view, you can have a universe where there was never no matter. There was never a state of affairs where there wasn't matter or there wasn't material stuff. And so you don't need a creator to bring it into existence in order for the material to exist.
Well, I'm saying in terms of in terms of what we can see within our observable universe, every instance of matter that we see, it something cannot have like. Again, this is why I asked: is your contention that the universe is eternal, and then B, also we know that matter is not eternal. So
Well,
if we know that
we
matter
don't know
is not
that.
eternal,
We don't know that. The thing is in fact, we have good reason to think that
we
like the
don't know
fundamental
that.
fields. No, we have good reason to think that the fundamental fields have existed for the entire time the universe has existed.
Well, listen to what you just said. You
are the
said we have good
constituents of
reason,
matter.
but you said we have good reason to think. That doesn't mean we know. Knowledge is different than a theory.
Yeah. So to be clear, the entirety of quantum field theory relies on this fact. And quantum field theory is the most accurate science that we have. Sorry, Aaron, I've been
But again,
steamrolling. Go ahead.
You've been having fun, and I don't want to stop that. But I will piggyback on what Blitz said, is that here's how absurdly precise quantum field theory gets. One of the things that was measured was just one of these unusual properties of the electron orbiting in hydrogen. It's called the anomalous magnetic moment. It sounds like a fancy word, and the only reason it's anomalous is that naively you would say this would have a value of exactly 2. It doesn't, and you realize, oh, if you go through and do all these really careful corrections because of effects from the quantum field, from basically the vacuum doing stuff, you get an extremely precise value for that number. And I think we've now been able to like theoretically calculate it down and all the approximations down to something like the 15th decimal place. And we've been able to experimentally verify it down to like the 12th or 13th decimal place, which is what we would call absurdly precise. And to give a sense of how precise it is, I'm not the person who invented this analogy, but if I were to travel from where I am here in Boston to Trafalgar Square in London, I could use this level of precision and land on a spot specifically in Trafalgar Square within the thickness of a human hair. That's the level of precision quantum field theory has provided, and specifically in quantum electrodynamics. And it has become the jaw-dropping level of precision that exists there that no other field can even dare to claim they can be that good. Evolution, it's got amazing predictions. Can it tell me where a sauropod is going to be to the 12th decimal place? Probably not.
And the reason why this is relevant is because quantum field theory, the formalism, the theory itself requires that there was never a creation moment for these quantum fields. They have to exist for the entirety of. They have to exist wherever the universe exists. These are like fundamental aspects of the universe. You can't have universe without them.
Okay, so is your contention that it is conceivable then that there could exist a universe in which matter has been eternal or always existed?
Again, since we're assuming that that there's a first moment of time here, this means that these fields just exist wherever there's universe. So there is a first moment where these fields exist because that was the first moment that existed, and then there was a non-temporal state where these fields exist. And the universe existed there too, but they're just non-temporal in that state.
Okay, but so that term "first moment" would,
yep.
I guess I might be getting tripped up on what you're meaning exactly. But when I hear that term "first moment," what I'm taking that to mean as the instance at which it came into existence.
No, because it existed non-temporally before that. It just existed temporally at the first moment. At the first moment.
So, but it existed before it began to exist. Is that
no?
What you're, like
it just existed in a different way. It existed non-temporally, and then when the first moment of time, or at the first moment of time, it existed temporally.
obviously this is very difficult because we're using tense language to talk about
Yep.
time. Maybe it helps to talk about spatially. Think of a building that is in the vertical direction. So there is a before the building where there's nothing in the vertical direction, everything is flat on the ground, and all of a sudden there's this building in that different dimension. We're saying that's basically the same kind of thing for time, that there is a spatial dimension existing before then, and then we can talk about time separate from it emerging. I know that's not a perfect analogy, but making it spatial, I think, makes it a little more intuitive.
Okay, so I guess even if we do make it spatial, are we, again, is the contention that space itself it has a plausibility to be eternal, or was there a first moment of space?
It's non-temporal. So people, and this is perhaps just a point of confusion between the two of us. People sometimes use eternal to mean not created and never ending, like not being destroyed, not being created, never being formed. Other people use it to mean it existed, it existed eternally into the past, meaning that that for every moment of time that it existed, there was a moment of time before that it also existed. So I'm using it in the sense of the latter. Which way are you using it?
Well, I guess the way in which I would be understanding the word eternal would be that there was never a point at which it did not exist.
Okay, then in that case, yes, then these fields would be eternal.
Okay, so space. So the contention is that space always existed, quantum fields always existed.
Right. It's just time had a beginning.
So time itself had a beginning, and time began within space, or where
one of the spatial dimensions becomes temporal.
So space became time.
Yeah, but in a non-tense way.
Again, in simplest terms.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Okay. So as far as our observable universe, what shared framework are we working from in terms of where that exists and in what state? Did our observable universe, well, again, I hesitate to use the word begin because we've been using the word begin and other words loosely and not loosely, but are we asserting that our observable universe began, or at that first point of time?
We could say that the first moment of time
always existed within space, or
we could say that the observable universe began 13.8 billion years ago. That, quote unquote, before that, which again, non-temporally before, but before that regardless, it just wasn't our observable universe. It was just, it was in a different state of affairs.
So it could have been something different.
Well, in this case, it would have been, because it wouldn't have had time, and our observable universe has time in it.
Okay, well, yeah, that's what I was getting at. Okay, so I guess, all right, so we've circled back then. So you are saying that 13.8 billion years ago, our observable universe began.
Well, at least
that's what you just said.
Have it. So to be clear, that's because I granted it at the beginning, that I was granting that there was a first moment of time. And it's possible, but that's definitely not something that we can definitively say.
Okay.
The best we can say right now is the furthest that we can show that there was stuff around that we can describe is about 13.8 billion years. And then before that, that time becomes so nebulous that we have no way of saying with confidence what the state was, let alone then any time before even that very, very small time between what might have been, quote unquote, the beginning, and then the hot state that we call the Big Bang, and then, of course, the 13.8 billion years since.
Okay, so is it safe to say that, again, in simplest terms, the current state of our observable universe, so again, the conjunction of time, space, matter, and energy that we have right now, began to exist 13.8 billion years ago?
I'm not sure if it makes sense to say that time begins to exist, but using loose language, you could say yes, because there would have been no time more than 13.8 billion years ago. And because you made a conjunction, it doesn't matter if the other things would have existed more than 13.8 billion years ago, in the loose sense, because it's time that didn't.
Well, yeah, I mean, that conjunction would be what makes up the current state of our observable universe.
Sure.
Okay. So So we are granting then that the observable universe, I guess, in simplest terms, had a beginning.
Sure.
Okay. So if our
and that's like
observable
trivially
universe,
true, by the way, because the observable universe is not the whole
sorry, say that
universe. So
again?
like that's like you probably could have just asked us that at the beginning, because that's obviously the case. Our observable universe was not observable even less than 380,000 years after the Big Bang. It was just not observable. So yeah, you could probably, if you had just asked about the observable universe, we probably would have agreed.
Well,
at the beginning.
yeah, I guess maybe I was not being clear. I apologize for that. I guess I conflated the word universe with our observable universe, which is my bad. I'm sorry.
You're good.
That's actually something I've even seen professional philosophers like fudge on that, about the difference between universe and observable universe, and then taking something true about one, making it for the other. So you are not alone. You are in good, intelligent company making similar confusions.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So anyway, yeah. So if our observable, so again, we will clarify that I'm speaking about our observable universe. And so again, it sounds like we are all working from the shared basic framework in simplest terms that our observable universe had a beginning 13.8 billion years ago.
Sure.
Is that safe to say from here?
Happy to grant that.
Okay. So if so we know that our observable universe had a beginning 13.8 billion years ago. We know that our observable universe is material. We know that the way in which material things behave within our observable universe is that if they exist, they have to have been brought into existence, not by themselves or by nothing, right? So again, the painting demands a painter, the building demands a builder.
If they exist, then they were brought into existence. That's not true.
So again, matter that exists within the observable universe, again, matter that exists, like creation is evidence of the creator, I guess is what I'm
and what I'm saying is that you've now done exactly what I was afraid that you were going to do, because we were willing to grant that the conjunction of time, space, and matter has a beginning, because time has a first moment of time. You are therefore then implying that actually implies that space and matter also have a beginning, and in this case, they would not.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is within time. Within time, though, is what I'm saying. Because again, we're talking about the conjunction of these things that is our...
Yeah, but then you're saying nothing, because then it's just the case that, like, well, even if something in some sense predates time, it would just count as having a beginning when time starts, even if there was in some sense it existed beforehand. And again, using before in kind of a loose way, in like a spatial kind of geometric way rather than in a temporal way. And so the point is that it's just not the case that that the matter in the universe would need an explanation as to why it began to exist at t equals 0, because it didn't begin to exist at t equals 0.
Well, are we granting that it did begin to exist then?
No, the point is that it didn't. Even if we grant that there's a first moment of time, it still didn't begin to exist. There was never a state of affairs where the matter didn't exist.
So again, this is why I keep asking: are we asserting that matter is eternal? That's why
under the language that you're using, yes.
Okay,
it's just time's not eternal, but matter is.
So again, matter existed before time, is what you're saying.
In the same way that space would have. It would have been timeless material, or matter's probably not the right word. Timeless quantum fields, and these are really well described. It's called Euclidean quantum field theory.
Okay, so in that explanation, is a timeless quantum field something that is wholly different from matter? Because I noticed you switched from matter to, you said matter wasn't a good term to use.
So matter didn't even exist after the Big Bang, like matter in the sense that you and I are familiar with. There were like excited quantum fields, and excited quantum fields are not really matter. They're just kind of like, think of it like goopy. It's not even goopy. It's just like quantum fluctuations, basically. If stuff becomes matter like a fraction of a second after the Big Bang. And so like that's why I'm being a little bit more careful, because we're really talking about something a little bit more fundamental than matter.
Okay, but I'm specifically talking about matter though. So when are we asserting that matter began to exist?
Matter, like we know when matter began to exist. Like in some sense, atoms began to exist something like arguably 380,000 years after the Big Bang. Before that, there were no atoms. There were merely nuclei and electrons. These are like high temperature ions. And then if you consider electrons and nuclei to be matter, well, those, I mean, it's hard to say when electrons began to exist, when the first electrons like precipitated out of the electron field. But nuclei formed about a second after the Big Bang. And so there would have been no nuclei before that. You would have had just like a quark gluon plasma. And so, is a quark gluon plasma matter? Well, maybe not. It's more of like a complicated quantum field configuration. So, but none of this has anything to do with like the beginning of time, right? This is all just stuff that happens afterwards.
But you just said, though, I want to be clear on what we're saying. So I just want to make sure that I heard right. You said that matter began to exist something like 380,000 years after the Big Bang.
Atoms did. Atoms
are the building blocks of matter.
Well, right,
yes,
but they're made of smaller things, right? They're made of electrons and neutrons and protons.
Yes, but are electrons, protons, neutrons, and the relationship between them that makes an atom, are those themselves material?
Arguably, yes. But this is a kind of a semantic thing. There are ways to define what matter is. Often matter is defined as any kind of particle that is a fermion, or that is composed of fermions, rather. And so in that case, then yes, protons would be matter, electrons would be matter, neutrons would be matter. And so you could kind of like zoom in a little bit more, and you'd find that fermions or that electrons are fundamental, and so they're like a fundamental type of matter. And then protons and neutrons would be made up of even smaller bits of matter. But so it just depends on where you want to cut off. Yeah.
I would also note that nonetheless, all particles are in some ways not fundamental because they're basically modes of the quantum fields. The quantum fields are the most fundamental.
Yeah, the question is the electron field itself matter? That's like perhaps a semantic debate.
Okay, so again, just want to make clear. So are we working from the framework of matter began to exist something like 380,000 years after the Big Bang?
If you just want to like, and like you can do this. This is fine. If you want to define matter as,
granted, this is all in simplest terms.
Yeah. If you just want to call matter anything that's made of, if you just want to call matter anything that was made of atoms, then yes, that's the correct answer. Atoms didn't exist until 380,000 years after the Big Bang.
Okay, so matter. So again, that brings us back to matter has a beginning. If we're asserting that matter began to exist 380,000 years after the Big Bang, that means there was a point at which matter did not exist.
Yep.
So matter.
Yes, that would be the case if that's how you're defining matter. Absolutely agree. But we know how matter formed, and it doesn't require a creator.
Well, so again, this is where the linguistic thing comes in. And again, like I said, creation, definition of which is to bring something into existence. Creator, definition of which is something or someone that brought or brings something into existence. So that's
I don't think you're not going to go with the something, because if we are talking about the thing that brought about atoms, it's the universe expanding and cooling down. So in that sense, the creation of matter, the creator was the universe cooling down, which is very much a non-agent kind of causation. So unless you want to, if you want to call expansion God, well, then we just have a very different definition of God, and that would get back to where we at the beginning of the call, and would say, hey, whatever this creator is, if we want to use that word here, it is completely orthogonal to God beliefs.
And to be clear, there's a reason why when you ask for what I meant or for what we meant by God, I specifically said it is some sort of grounding or foundation or originator of all of the things that exist in physical reality, and it has a mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
So really, when we say that something is created, we are referring to it's created by a creator, with a creator having a mind. And so if that's what's being meant by creator, then no, atoms were not created. They had a beginning. They formed, but they were not created. Not by a creator.
Okay, because like I said, I guess I was playing more fast and loose with the word, with the definition of the word creator again, which is something or someone that brings something into existence. But so I was not necessarily attaching that the caveat of
Right,
that this thing or someone has a mind.
But just to be clear, are you a Christian, by the way?
I am personally, yes.
Okay, so then the thing that you think is the creator has a mind, right?
Well, yes.
Okay, so why don't we? Because,
but yeah,
yeah. So we're you're eating.
But
ice
we've
cream.
not yet
We're
gotten
talking
to
about God. No, I know we're talking about God though. So let's reserve the use of the word creator for a thing with a mind, because that's where you're trying to get anyway. So because otherwise it'll end up looking like equivocation.
Well, I'm trying to engage with the prompt itself, which was just that we don't need God, which is why I asked to define terms at the beginning.
And a god is a source of the universe that has a mind.
Okay,
and when it comes to a god like that, we don't need it for nucleosynthesis. We're able to do that and understand it completely naturalistically without any agents.
Nucleosynthesis, by the way, being actually nucleosynthesis was a different thing. No, you're thinking of what's it called when it gets the cool? There's a name for it, right? The surface of last scattering is what you're thinking of. Nucleosynthesis is 1 second after, and that's when you get helium nuclei. But anyway, the point is we can understand the formation of atoms without a creator with a mind.
Okay, because like I said, at the beginning of the call, I again made sure to define our terms, and like we defined, the three of us, I thought, came to the shared framework that God here was being defined as, in simplest terms, supreme creator of the universe, and then creator again meaning something or someone that brings something into existence.
Okay, well now you're equivocating because hold on, no, I'm not going to let you do this because you asked for my definition.
No, I'm asking for clarification.
Yeah, okay, I'll clarify. You asked for my definition. I gave you one, and then he said, okay, so it sounds like you're saying, in simplest terms, a supreme creator. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds good, with the understanding that a supreme creator means something like a source of the physical universe that has a mind. But now you're using the word creator to smuggle in something that doesn't have a mind. So we can't change the definition now.
Well, yeah, like I said, that was just potentially my bad in the beginning. Or not potentially, it was my bad in the beginning to not further clarify that. But also, again, there's, in my estimation, there's threefold evidence for the existence of a creator of the universe with a mind. So I'm just getting to the cosmological evidence for a creator of the universe, then there's the teleological evidence for the creator of the universe with a mind, and then the moral evidence for the creator of the universe with a mind. So these are all building blocks. So I'm starting with cosmological evidence that would point to a creator, and then there's teleological and moral evidence that point to the fact that that creator has a mind.
Look,
so I'm trying to work through this block by block.
If all you mean by creator is that the universe could have had an origin, we can just like the observable universe could have had like a first moment of time, and in that first moment of time, things existed. We can just grant that. That doesn't get you. That gets you absolutely right. It gets you absolutely zero closer to a creator with a mind. So.
But that's well, I was, like I said, it's threefold. There's the cosmological evidence that supports an existence of a creator, mind or no mind. And then I was
there's a problem though with this idea that the creator of the universe is mental, because if you want to look at the example of every single agent, it has required the existence of time and for this time to quote unquote flow. So do you have a mind outside of time, making decisions, making actions, deciding things? That is temporal processing. So you would now have to have mind so different than anything we use it for that it just can't apply. So it seems like whatever created the universe has to be something atemporal and has to then be amental. Amental. I don't know if that's a term, but it is now.
Non-cognitive. How about?
There we go.
Well, so are we granting or not granting anymore?
Well, no. So the point is we can grant that there is that the universe was created in the sense that you're using, and then the argument that Aaron just gave is that we have very strong evidence that that if it was created by something non-mental.
What brings us to that point of contention, though?
Because all mental objects are temporal objects. To basically think, to decide, is a temporal sequence.
Well, all mental objects that we observe within our observable, but again, this creator exists outside of our observable universe because it created
And
the
so it's
observable universe.
non-temporal, and so it has to be a mind so different than anything else. There's no reason to call it a mind at that point. If I'm pointing out that if everything that we understand about minds is that they are
points that I was going to make, and you are making them for me.
Well, I'm actually now pointing out how they undermine you, because whatever it is, it has to not be a mind, because every example of mind, how we understand what minds are, these are all conscious things are temporal, because you are deciding to do things. You have a memory of something, and then you decide to take some action. These are all things about past, future, tensed situations. And the only way that works is to be within time.
Yes, but again, so this creator, as we've come, again, as we all have granted, would have to be outside of time, would have to be atemporal.
Right,
which would then not be mental, which is not an agent, which is then not the God that we're trying to talk about. But what I'm saying is, whatever that creator is, it's non-mental, therefore it's not God.
Well, again, we've granted that the universe was brought into existence, or came into existence.
But I'm pointing out the thing that makes your position impossible. If it's not even possible for a mind to exist outside of time, then anything else you try to build up here is pointless, because it'll always still have what I'm saying is basically a logical problem.
Well, again, it's impossible from how is it, like, again, the way, that's why I said we've got to get to the teleological argument and then the moral argument.
You're basically abandoning this entire argument, so it's now, it doesn't add to anything. No, they don't actually at this point. What I'm pointing out is this is now logically, if it's not a logical contradiction, it is definitely a logical tension. We're saying, hey, we are going to argue that there's a creator, it's outside of time, but now we're going to have an example of a mind that is completely atemporal, even though we have not only no reason to think that, but I have extreme difficulty even conceptualizing that, and now saying that this is what's going on. Well, conversely, we can have atemporal explanations for the origins of the universe, and those amental things, non-cognitive ways of understanding the origins of the universe, or the universe always existing in some other kind of state that doesn't require agents. And the whole thing that you're trying to do to get to a first moment of time leads to a non-temporal state, and I'm arguing that all non-temporal states cannot have minds in them.
Well, so I guess this is what I was getting to, and this is why I was going block by block. So like I said, we covered the cosmological, and again, so my contention here, because we started for trying to show how there's a creator, and we were using a natural argument to explain that, and we were thinking about things strictly in a natural scientific context. So now we moved on to, all right, we've granted, all right, we've got a creator, boom, there was something or someone that brought the universe into existence as we know it, and we used.
And as I'm pointing out, it can't be a someone, because someones require time, and if we're talking about something outside of time, it can't be a someone. It has to then be a something. And you're not going to get around that logical problem by saying some other argument that's unrelated.
So no, now what we're working towards is we're hashing out the qualities in which I am going to portray onto this creator. So again,
and I'm pointing out there's a logical problem from the get-go. You can't now. I'm telling you basically the emperor has no clothes. Now saying you're going to describe the patterns on their pantaloons is a waste of time.
But again,
great analogy.
So again, this is why this is why we're going to work Emperor's New Groove. David Spade.
No. It's the Emperor's New Groove.
No, I know, but that's what the Emperor's New Groove is based loosely off of. I know.
Okay, so look, maybe I can just clarify, because I think that there's some things that are probably being lost in translation here. So look, okay, so we've just granted that the universe has a creator, and that creator is either mindful or it's mindless, meaning it doesn't have a mind or it does have a mind. Now, we can look at those two cases. If we consider the case, and also whatever this creator is, it has to be non-temporal. It doesn't exist in time. Now, the point that Aaron's making is that, okay, let's say that you give a whole bunch of arguments that suggest that it's likely that whatever that creator is has a mind. Well, that's great. It might be likely, except once you then consider that minds cannot exist atemporally, that likelihood drops to zero. It doesn't matter how close you got to 100%. 99.999% times 0% is 0%. So that's the point that Aaron's getting at. That there is that this is not the kind of thing that's possible. So there's no amount of evidence that can make it possible.
Well, again, but you're working from a framework that is strictly scientific and natural. So again, you're
this is pure logic.
A mind, but a mind in the way in which we can conceive of it, sure, cannot exist. But we can see that there's we can see within creation that this wasn't all just by accident, willy-nilly. Like there's a
that is all completely irrelevant.
evidence.
But I'm pointing out a logical problem. I'm saying consciousness.
Wait, so it's irrelevant that DNA
time.
is a code? It's irrelevant that DNA is a very meticulous code.
It is irrelevant to all this argument about creation from a non-temporal state if what I'm saying is consciousness fundamentally requires time. This is the thing you have to argue against. I'm saying unless you can show that it's possible to have consciousness without time, positing a conscious agent in a non-temporal state is a contradiction in the same sort of way is talking about an emperor that is butt naked but is wearing blue pantaloons. Also, I had to double check. The Emperor's New Clothes, it's a Hans Christian Andersen story. I couldn't remember and I checked that's true.
Okay.
But so is your assertion then that there is not order and design to the universe?
The point is
irrelevant
it's irrelevant.
Why? But wait.
Again,
I feel like
are
it's
getting
not
into the
irrelevant
details of the
you
fabric when I'm telling you that the Emperor literally is naked.
But we can see the Emperor is not naked because we can see there's order and design to the. My eyes aren't lying. To me.
So
the analogy here is that the clothes is about the nature of the creator, and I'm pointing out this creator is naked in the sense that it is atemporal, and all atemporal things have to be non-mental because everything that is mental, that is consciousness, is temporal.
But that's again part of my point is that what we're conceptualizing
no, you're
God
completely
here
missing
to be
my point,
is not something.
And I've reiterated it multiple times, James.
But I think we're talking past each other. I think we're talking
That's
past
what I'm saying,
each other.
James. Please, can you actually repeat back to what my argument is?
Again, you're saying that because a mind cannot exist atemporally, that it's dead on arrival.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yep.
So by analogy, it's something like, okay, so imagine that I'm telling you about all of this evidence that we have for square circles. I'm like, we can find we can find books written about square circles, and there are square circles. The square circle code is written in our DNA, and there's all this evidence for square circles. And then you come around and tell me, that's great that you have that evidence, but there's no such thing as square circles. Like, it doesn't matter what evidence I'm giving you. None of it can point to anything real because square circles are impossible.
Well, but again, I guess that's my point here is that science alone and the natural order of things
alone. This is not science. This is set theory. I'm saying the set of all minds are temporal. The set of all atemporal things that intersects with mental things is an empty set.
But I guess that's why we have to work through what we've granted so far. We've granted that the universe.
I've granted you an empty set.
No, but again, I would love to finish the sentence. We've granted that the universe was brought into existence. We've granted that.
James, I've now said a dozen times. It all is irrelevant if I'm pointing out a logical problem that it literally cannot be a mental cause. That is the thing you have to contend against. Reiterating how you get to the universe had a beginning is irrelevant, and if I'm telling you there is a logical reason, it cannot be a mental cause. Reiterating things or pointing to other things is irrelevant if I'm saying here is a logical problem. If you can't address that logical point, you're literally running away from the problem.
Well, again, you're not letting me finish a sentence. So again,
because you're being irrelevant. So I'm trying to make you focus. You need to contend against what I am
being
arguing.
Irrelevant. But you're not letting me get there though, because you're not letting me form what I'm trying to say. We have conceded
James.
that the universe had a beginning. We conceded that the universe began and was created. We conceded that time is within our universe, and therefore time had a beginning. Therefore, whatever caused it to begin must be outside of time, because time itself is a creation. So whatever created time must be outside of time, because time itself is a creation. We've also conceded that there. Do we not all agree that there is order and design to the universe?
By the way, to be clear, you're using the word conceded. The word that you're looking for is granted.
Well, that's what I'm sorry. Yes, that's what I meant.
Okay.
So do we all?
And maybe
do we
I can
also
just clarify
grant that there is order and design to the universe?
Maybe there is. Maybe there's not. I can clarify though. If I told you that there's all of this evidence for leprechauns, and the leprechauns, they can do all of this stuff. You know, there's books about leprechauns, and you can see the four-leaf clovers at the edge of the rainbow, and sometimes gold can be found at the edge of the rainbow. And there's a leprechaun on TV who makes cereal. There's all this evidence for leprechauns. It doesn't matter how much evidence I give you for leprechauns if leprechauns are impossible.
Well, I think we're misunderstanding. Again, what makes
the point is a mind.
Correct me if I'm wrong here.
Go ahead.
Correct me if I'm wrong. If is not what makes something impossible or not the evidence for it?
No.
If you're telling me there's evidence for something,
I see the issue. This is not an evidential problem. So evidence is a good way to determine whether something is likely or unlikely. Evidence will never really get you to possible, or evidence will not usually get you. I don't even think ever will never get you to impossible, and it will never get you to certain. Evidence just increases or decreases the probability or the likelihood of something. The argument that Aaron has made
so you just told me that evidence will never get you to impossible or possible.
Please. So the argument that Aaron made is not an evidentiary argument. The argument that Aaron made is a deductive argument. It is a logical problem. So this is something that gets us to impossibility. So unless you can defeat the impossibility, you can find an error in the logical argument, for example. Unless you can defeat the impossibility, no amount of evidence will change that impossibility to a possibility.
But again, he's doing two seemingly contradictory things at once. And he's telling me something is impossible while granting the evidence for how it is possible.
What I'm telling you, and I guess I have to repeat it, is whatever is the creator, it is impossible that it is a specific kind of creator, one with mental qualities.
But so again, are you is your assertion then that there's no design and order to the universe?
That's a separate thing completely.
So the question is
not because we can observe that there is order and design to the universe, and there can only be order and design to the universe if a mind designed it.
James,
that is also false.
The point is that it may be the case that there's order and apparent design to the universe.
Can exist without a mind.
James, it may be the case that there's order and apparent, or that there's apparent order and apparent design to the universe. But whatever is the explanation for that, if Aaron's argument works, it can't be a mind.
So again, that's why I'm asking, can you demonstrate to me then how order and design can exist without absent a mind?
Aaron already has by showing that a universe cannot be created by a mind.
That was not my question. I'm talking about order and design. How can there be? Can you demonstrate to me how order and design can be present absent a mind?
Okay, I will do it again. So if order and design cannot be present absent a mind, then the universe would have a designer that is mental. However, the universe does not have a designer that is mental. Therefore, order and design can be present without a mind.
But you have to demonstrate again.
Which premise do you disagree with?
Where do we observe? Again, we're talking about how things function within our observable universe to get to the bigger picture of the observable universe itself, which reflects the qualities of everything within it. So within our observable universe, where have we observed an instance of order and design taking place absent a mind?
Literally the entire universe. That's the point of Aaron's argument.
That's not what I said. I know you're trying to basically look at things like living things and the like. And also for that, if you're talking about the origins of life, if you're talking about evolution, or if you're talking about something a little bit simpler like crystal formation. These are all things where things are orderly, but they all arrive about by thermodynamic processes, which is ultimately a bunch of atoms bouncing around each other in ways that seem random, but have enough. It's still fundamentally random that how they're bumping into each other, but they have the right sorts of properties, that they arrange themselves in ways that we consider orderly, whether it's crystals such as in ice, or whether it's in a kind of or a non kind of repeating crystal that we call DNA. DNA is actually a kind of crystal.
Okay, but that's just with matter again. Something like DNA. DNA.
Do you wanted examples of order coming about from
code.
non-order? I gave them to you, and so now you're saying that's not good enough. At this point, I guess how can we even tell what evidence you are looking for?
And you still haven't addressed the logical problem that Aaron introduced.
But his logical problem presupposes that our eyes are lying to us.
No, it doesn't.
Because order and design exists within our universe.
So Aaron, okay, I will give one final analogy, and if this doesn't work, I don't know where we're gonna go. Okay, so suppose that someone was trying to tell me that there existed a married bachelor, right? And I say, okay, well, what's the evidence for the married bachelor? I say, well, okay, there's this guy that I know.
I understand what you're getting at.
Okay, so
you're getting at the law of non-contradiction. I understand that.
Yeah. So James, is there any amount of evidence I could give you that a married bachelor exists?
Well, based on the definitions of what those two words, again, it would violate the law of non-contradiction.
And what Aaron is saying is based on the definitions of an atemporal mind, that is itself a contradiction. There's no amount of evidence that you could give us for an atemporal mind when the two terms are contradictory.
But I guess what I'm saying is, so I guess what I haven't, heard then, and I'm sure you'll be able to provide an explanation, why is it that a mind cannot exist atemporally?
Yeah, okay, so a mind is an agent. An agent is reason responsive. Response requires time. Therefore, a mind requires time. Therefore, an atemporal mind cannot exist.
Oh, sorry, hold on. I was eating ice cream. Wait, so a mind is an agent. An agent is an agent. Sorry, I was eating ice cream. I'm sorry.
Yeah. A mind is an agent. An agent is reason responsive. Responding requires time. Hence, a mind requires time.
Why is it that responding requires time?
It's a reaction
from one state to another state.
What do we mean by responding in this context, or just at all?
Something happens. So typically when we're talking about agents being reason responsive, what we mean is that if you provide an agent with some sort of argument or some sort of explanation or some sort of reason for thinking something, doing something, believing something, that it will respond accordingly. It doesn't respond randomly. It responds to reason.
But that can only happen within time?
Yes. Because a response is a temporal sequence. Because in order for a response to happen, there must be something that precedes it, that causes the response, right? That's what it means to respond to something. Respond.
Okay, but earlier when we were applying these types of concepts to the universe, you granted that the universe could be eternal, therefore, you granted it was possible that the universe could be eternal. Therefore, it doesn't necessarily need a response. So why would that not also apply to this?
But my point is, when did I say it doesn't need a response?
No, but what I'm saying is,
responses only work with agents. We're talking about a non-agentic origin of existence.
I'm sorry, say that again.
We're talking about a non-agentic origins of existence. And of course, when I say non-agentic, it makes it sound like I'm talking about Claude from Anthropic, but I mean goal-oriented agents.
Okay, so
or
in other
reason
words,
responsive.
So these qualities that we're talking about are only applicable would only be applicable in this context to whatever creator we're talking about.
To things with, or
again,
if we're talking about a thing with a mind, then yes. You don't. So a natural configuration, a natural order, is not reason responsive. It responds to it doesn't even really respond. Actually, it just is a certain way. Okay,
so if it doesn't respond, then it would not need to exist. It doesn't matter if it's temporal.
Then it can be atemporal. Right. So
okay,
a non-agent doesn't have to. A non-agent can't respond. It's not an agent. It can't really respond.
Okay, so again, you said
or it can't respond to reasons.
So design. So you just said so design and order is not incumbent upon a response. Is that in simplest terms what you just said?
No, I didn't say anything about design
Well,
and order. I can clarify. So reasons response means so look, there are two ways that a thing can be. Like let's talk temporally, right? So temporally, you can have things that respond to reasons and things that respond to happenstances, right? So like the rocks underneath a flowing river, they erode, but the reason they erode is not because of a reason. It's not because of, some explanation that somebody gave. They respond that way because of a happenstance. The water is flowing over them and there's just like some physical process that's happening to it. That's why it responds the way it does. Whereas a mind is a different kind of thing. A mind like you, me, and Aaron, we are all minds, and we can respond, like, not only can our minds respond to happenstances, but they can also respond to reasons. Like, for example, my mind can change if somebody gives me a reason to believe something. Non-agents don't do that. And so that's one of the qualifying differences between an agent or a mind and a non-agent or a non-mental thing. Agents respond to reasons, or at least they can respond to reasons. But if you're talking about something that's non-temporal, then there's no way for it to do the responding in the first place. So it can't, like, if that is the distinguishing feature, it can't be a mind.
Okay. Okay. Like I said, like I said, we've reached an impasse, I feel like, and we probably did a while ago. But like I said, I would argue that because all of these things that we've been speaking about in conjunction with one another are just, we can see that the way that they are is the way that they are. This would be the first point of evidence of the thing that we're trying to conceptualize. But you two would obviously say, no, it's impossible. So this is the point
the point is like, look, let's say I'm learning English for the first time. I just don't know a lot of these words, right? I just don't know words like square and circle. I don't know the names of the shapes. And so if I went online and I started reading about squares and I started reading about circles, and I heard this thing called a square circle, and I saw that online, I'd be like, oh, there's all this evidence for squares, and oh, there's all this evidence for circles. I don't know what these words mean, but there's all this evidence for squares and all this evidence for circles. Maybe that's evidence for square circles. And because I don't know what that means, I might think that that's evidence. I might think that that's something that could actually exist and be like, aha, there's so much evidence for square circles. But once I learn what a square and a circle is, I would come to the conclusion that even though there is all this evidence for squares, even though there's all this evidence for circles, it's impossible for there to be a square circle at all. And so what's happening here is that we look around the world around us and we see, oh, there's all this apparent, there's this order that we see, and it looks so much like it's designed, and it looks like there's so much purpose. It looks like that there's going to be this non-temporal mind. But then if we think about it more, we're like, oh, well, it can't be that there's a non-temporal mind, because that kind of thing is impossible. So whatever is the explanation or the apparent order, the apparent design, the apparent the apparent fine-tuning, whatever it is, whatever explanation for it, it can't be a square circle. It can't be a non-temporal mind. In the same way that whatever the explanation is for all the circles and all the squares in the universe, it can't be that there are square circles.
And I fully understand what you're saying, but again, my point of contention would be that, again, to reiterate what I said, that the observance of all of these things that we've just walked through would be the piece of evidence for the non-temporal mind.
You're just telling me that all of the squares and all of the circles is evidence for the square circles.
Well, no, what I'm telling you is that the information in conjunction with the other information that we've spoken about, again, we can't deny that there's design and order to the universe. We can't deny...
yes, we can, but that's a completely separate conversation. Well, but the point is even if I grant that it looks that way, that it looks like there's so much order... No, we probably shouldn't. But even if I grant that it looks like there's so much order, it looks like there's so much design, even if I grant that, whatever the explanation for it looking that way can't be a non-temporal mind. So there has to be some alternative explanation. Because a non-temporal mind is the kind of thing that's impossible.
Well, but again, my contention would be that it's impossible if we're pigeonholing ourselves into
This is not a pigeonholing problem. I'm talking about a metaphysical impossibility.
It kind of is. It kind of is a pigeonholing principle kind of thing.
Oh, I see it that way. But not pigeonhole as in a being scientific. I'm saying there is a metaphysical fundamental problem. And you can't say something has to be the case, even though I'm saying it is metaphysically impossible. I'm saying you need to find out some other alternative explanation. And funny enough, this is one of the fun things that physicists like to do is come up with other non-agentic explanations for the origins of the universe, the laws of nature. Honestly, one of my favorite laws of nature is a completely probabilistic one, the second law of thermodynamics.
Oh,
because it's all just a... Oh, you're going to hate the paper I submitted then.
Yeah, I know.
But fundamentally, that you can get a lot of purchase with just say, hey, if we do counting, and some states are more likely than other states just by sheer counting of similar states, certain things pop out. And this is fundamentally what the second law of thermodynamics is. And it explains everything from why it gets cold at night, why does coffee reach room temperature, and also why do ice crystals grow.
Interesting.
Well, it sounds like you have a lot to think about, James.
Sorry. Yes. Well, like I said, again, my contention would still be my contention, and obviously yours is still yours. However, that is not. Again, I didn't parse through the teleological evidence, the moral evidence. But it
suffice it to say, I think both Aaron and I have heard it before.
Yes,
of course. Of course you have. I'm not claiming to say that you had not heard of. Of course you have.
Yeah, James, we've been going on for actually over an hour, and I do want to get to our last caller. So two things. One, would welcome you to call back after you finish the ice cream, and if you call again, share it with the rest of the hosts.
Yeah,
of course. It's not class.
And of course, chunky monkey.
Is it gluten-free?
We'll say that again.
Is it gluten-free?
It is not. I'm sorry.
Oh, you asshole. Okay, fine.
Unfortunately, I'm a jerk. I wake up in the morning and I eat just pure gluten.
I literally, before I got diagnosed with celiac, my morning routine, and sorry, James, we're just off topic. My morning routine was
I love this stuff. Keep going.
It was wake up and then eat a pack of Pop-Tarts within 15 minutes. That was my morning routine every single morning. And then for lunch, every single day, I would make myself a sandwich on some nice country white bread. And both of those things are impossible now.
What is still your favorite Pop-Tart flavor, but what was your
brown
go-to?
Sugar cinnamon. It's brown sugar cinnamon.
That's the only answer, of course. Oh my goodness,
that's the only answer.
Okay. All right.
Anyway, go ahead, Aaron. I know that you want to.
All right. Yeah, like I say, James, I welcome you to call back in. Do consider what I'm saying is the metaphysical issue I'm bringing up, because if we can't get past that, we're going to just keep running into this atemporal wall, and I want to make sure our time is well spent talking about time. Nonetheless, thank you for calling in. Have a good night, and we're going to get to our last caller.
Hey. Yeah, thank you both very much. Have a good night.
Take care, James.
Good night. You're reminding me of my old girlfriend's advisor. He was German, and in his 30s, he developed an allergy to beer.
Celiac is technically an allergy to beer. Okay, so I moved to Europe for like a few years, and I know we have to get to our next guest, but we have time. I moved to Europe for a few years, and I knew I was moving to Europe. I got the job offer in March, and I was moving in September. And I have a friend, and I was moving to the Czech Republic, and I have a friend who's Czech. He was born there and moved to the U.S. when he was little, and he said, "You need to learn how to drink beer," because prior to that, I didn't drink any beer. I thought it was gross because I was a child. So over the next 6 months, I basically forced myself to start liking beer so that I could fit in culturally. And you go out for lunch, you get a beer, and that's normal. And by the time I got there, I was like, yeah, I can drink beer. I can like find me a good beer, and I can enjoy it. And then I moved back, and within a year, I can't drink beer anymore because I have celiac. So just bad timing all around, wasted time, if you will. Anyway, why don't we bring up Alia?
Our last caller. So and of course, Alia she, her pronouns from New York. First off, though, Alia, I want to make sure we're pronouncing your name correctly. What's the best way to say it?
Alia is in fact correct.
Thank you. All right, Alia, you have a questions about the origin of the universe, which has nothing to do with our previous caller.
No, absolutely nothing. Technically speaking, I like, in case y'all want to debate, I'm not sure if y'all do, I like, technically speaking, have like a semantic point about the previous caller. I'm not really sure that one's important. I do kind of disagree with your assertion that Julian's argument was illogical. I think it was simply illogical from a certain perspective. But no, my question is about the universe, so I'm happy to dive into that.
Let's do that.
Yeah, I will say that probably the better way to put it is I was putting not a logical impossibility, but a metaphysical impossibility. Very similar, but not identical, and I take your point.
Well, to be clear, it is actually a logical possibility if you take a mind to be the kind of thing that requires time. Then you actually do get a genuine contradiction.
Yes.
Yeah. That's all. That's semantics. So I guess my question, the other day, like on stream, I believe it was Seth and Owen were talking with a person, and anyway, they were like, the universe began roughly around the Big Bang, and I guess my understanding, because I have taken astronomy in college, I want to go back and get my astrophysics, bachelor in astrophysics. My understanding was that essentially it's more likely or possible that the universe kind of goes through phases where it kind of oscillates, almost like a heartbeat, where it expands and then contracts back and forth. I was really curious if I could get y'all's thoughts on that, because that is a very interesting idea to me.
Can I share my screen? Is that a thing?
I shared mine.
Okay, how do I do this?
Do I just click on but I cannot promise.
Yeah, well,
I will see it at the same time.
Okay, well that's fine. I can still share it. I can still share it. Everybody else can see it.
Yeah.
I'll just
Zoom,
pull
if you bring your mouse to the lower end of your screen,
okay, I got it.
should see the thing that pops up. Okay.
We're good. Okay. So it's funny you bring this up. I wrote a paper about this about a year ago. Actually, no, I guess it got published as of May. So it appeared in print. Actually, I don't even know if it's appeared in print yet. Anyway, it got accepted to a journal. It's called A Breathing Universe, which is exactly the kind of thing that you're talking about. Now, let it be known, this paper is a consistency check. To say that it is indeed possible that the universe does this. However, this is by no means saying so. Rather, the point of this paper is that it is not impossible for the universe to do this kind of thing. However, we have absolutely no evidence that the universe actually does do that.
Yeah, so it's just a possibility.
In fact, the evidence that we have is very, very that is I don't want to say that it's very strongly against that, but we have zero supporting evidence that the universe will recollapse.
Yeah, I should also note that the author of this paper, I wouldn't trust them. They believe in super duper string theory.
I'm not a string theorist. I don't even like string theory. Don't put that juju on me.
Just for those who may not have seen the screen, the author of this paper is our co-host.
Me. But yeah, I mean, it's a fun idea. I absolutely love the idea, and I'm enamored by it. So I'm actually working on another paper that's closely related to the same idea. But as it stands, we have no evidence supporting it.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I love trying to understand the nature of the existence of the universe. I don't know. For me, I thrive in the unknown. It's nice that we don't know, because it always gives us more to explore.
I'd rather know, to be honest.
Yeah.
Why? If you know everything, then there's nothing more to know. And then
the reason I like exploring is because the end goal of the exploring, which is the knowing part.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I guess for me, I like exploring and I like knowing, but I also like the aspect of not knowing everything fully, because
that makes me supremely uncomfortable.
Well, I should also note that according to our childhood authorities, knowing is half the battle.
Yes.
So for me, it is essentially, if I knew if for example we got to the point where we knew everything about the universe, right? Then what would people who are curious, who want to know more, do?
They could just go read.
right? Like I mean that's fair, but like I don't know. I would love for there to be an instance where like there is always more to learn and always more to know, just because I think it's more interesting that way. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Well, you know what? If we did know everything, they could take a look. It's in a book.
Yeah.
A reading rainbow.
I was going to say, to relate this back to a better authority, there is an episode of Star Trek Voyager where they travel to the continuum, and basically it's like it's lifeless now because the Q have said, hey, we've discovered everything, we've done everything, we've talked about everything. There's nothing left to do. And the continuum itself was basically just like bored and dying, and they had to effectively find some reason to have something else to do. In that extreme case, I could understand that. But from what I can tell, every discovery leads to 5 more things we realize we don't know, and 5 more things to research. So to me, it is the greatest kind of Hydra mythology could ever give us. Cut one head, you get more heads.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Yeah, unless you burn the heads off.
I like that the more we know, the more we find out we have to know. Because it just, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I just love it. It's so interesting to see how much knowledge that there is to have, to learn about. Yeah. I don't know.
Not to mention, when it comes to knowing things, let me put this out. We have learned a lot about the nature of cancer. We don't know how to generally cure it. Boy, oh boy, is that knowledge I think we really would strive to have. And it's a good thing if we get it.
Oh, for sure. Like, I don't disagree. Like, my desire for a lack of knowledge, in a sense, isn't the sense that, like, I don't want to ever know things. It's more that I always want there to be more things that I have to discover. It's probably a better way to frame it.
Yeah.
And maybe those things could be things that don't necessarily...
to put in a different analogy, it's like the person who's climbed every mountain. But I'll point this out. You can always reclimb the same mountain. It's still quite the challenge. Everest will never be easy.
That's fair.
Well, until we have helicopters that can fly up to the top.
But yeah. Anyway, thanks, y'all. And that is an interesting answer to my question. I actually pulled up the paper, so I'll probably read it later.
Good luck.
Dr. Blitz. And
a little technical.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
And
thanks for being here.
I enjoy reading scientific papers. All right. Thanks, y'all, and have a lovely night.
Take care.
Thank you. Good night. All right. And that was our last caller in queue. So
we have some super chats.
What have we learned today, everyone?
That I will talk ad infinitum about cosmology if you let me.
Fortunately, we have ways of protecting ourselves, and that's super chats, which is the way that we help fund this show. So all super chats, $5 and over, we will read, even if it requires us to say terrible puns, or even especially if it requires us to say terrible puns. So I'll take this first one coming from William Mate 1991. All right, y'all dang nerds, make with the cool physics, or I'll stuff you into lockers and take your lunch money.
Joke's on you, I didn't go to a school with lockers.
But I think you forgot the obligatory shouting, nerds!
No, they already did that. It's the fourth word.
It says dang nerds. We need shouting with exclamation points left and right side of the word nerds.
Okay, sure. Again from William Matz, would it be easier to make lightsabers or replicators? Oh, lightsabers, all the way. So much easier.
Trying to think how that is, because for the lightsaber, does the light need to go out and then come back?
It's not light, it's plasma. So like,
okay,
you don't even have to, you can just make like a really long plasma torch.
Okay. All right, in that case, that is too easy. So we got to make this harder.
Well, I mean, look, you could make it harder. You could do whatever. The point is that replicators are like the level of technology required for replicators would be like the kind of thing that builds a particle accelerator the size of the Milky Way, right?
Right. I'm just thinking, like, if we simplify it too much, then we would just say, well, 3D printers are replicators. So there's a bit of a semantic argument here.
Yeah, that's true.
Best kinds of arguments, right?
Exactly, right?
All right. Next question from Joshua Everett 9887. Good evening. Badgemore club has been banned in MTG Standard. I am happy about this turn of events. Hashtag Team Physics.
This is a Magic the Gathering reference. I guess Badgermole Cub just got banned. It's a very powerful card that was just banned in one of the formats. I didn't know that, but kudos to you. I don't play Standard. Standard sucks.
I haven't played Magic since at least high school, so I honestly, it took me a minute to register MTG as Magic the
You
Gathering.
still have
Honestly,
Magic the Gathering cards.
they are at my parents' home in a drawer.
Have you considered going to look for them and seeing if you have anything that's extremely expensive?
Oh, I checked long ago, and it's like, yeah, they were nothing but commons.
Okay. Well, there's still some commons that are very expensive, so you never know.
Yeah. I mean, I also had some Pokemon cards. For some reason, I had like 10 first edition Charizards.
No big deal. All right. Next up, we have Elliot K with the $5. Do either of you have thoughts on the exomoon discovered that's the size of Jupiter that's orbiting a brown dwarf? It doesn't sound like a moon.
I only remember a bit vaguely about this. What's his name? He's an astronomer from Colombia. He has a YouTube channel called Cool Worlds. I'm forgetting his name right now. I've had only the most minimal communication with him, but I think he's had a couple of videos about this moon and disagreeing calling it a moon. But I do not know the details. It's outside my knowledge base. But it's still a cool thing. I'm glad we discovered it. What it ultimately is, let's go put a flag on it. All right. Next up, we have Ray Gatto. I am having a hard time getting the yoga instructor to leave my house. Every time I tell her goodbye, she says namaste.
Good bit.
Not bad, not
Good
bad.
bit.
Ray Gatto, I'm only disappointed in the fact that Erica is not here because we know that you two have a relationship. She enjoys your cat image. She does not like your puns. But we love you coming here and giving us money.
Very true. From Joshua Everett with the $5. Salman. Delicious, delicious Salman. I don't know why I said it so weird.
You were either thinking Salman Rushdie.
I was just thinking about the way it was spelled. And I'm just like, you know what? Let's pronounce the L. Let's put a little Salman there. I don't know.
Why the L is actually there is a question that I don't have enough knowledge of. It makes me think early on it must have been pronounced.
So, okay, did you know? So, you know the word lux used to refer to smoked salmon?
Mm-hmm.
That word is etymologically related to basically every single word for salmon, except like some like in English. Like it's etymologically related. In fact, the Czech word for salmon is losos, which is very close to lox. And the Norwegian word for salmon, or for salmon, I believe it's just lox, actually. So this is a I mean it comes from Polish, I think, is where this it comes from, probably Polish Jews, probably, because bagels. So yeah, very interesting. Anyway, it's all you.
All right. Okay. Next up, we've got D4 Vid 4
I'm sure that says David. David Haxor. You don't know how to read lead speak?
It's been a while, and when I saw the XOR, I was literally thinking exclusive OR gates, so my brain is in the wrong place for reading these things. I will attempt to read the rest of this based on the generous 20 Canadian dollars given. If physics real, is antimatter-matter asymmetry resolved with an antimatter universe on the other side of the Big Bang? Unfortunately, no, because we still produce matter-antimatter pairs in our particle accelerators.
There is an idea called the CPT symmetric universe, though, that has an antimatter on the other side of the Big Bang. This is something that I think Sean Carroll's actually looked at, and there are a few other papers on it as well. The idea is just that it's matter dominated here, it'd be antimatter dominated there. It's not that antimatter is impossible here. It's just that you have CPT symmetry, right? And so the idea is that you can take all the matter here, if you time reverse it, and you change the charge, and you change the parity. Well, that would look an awful. If you did that at the Big Bang, it would look like you have two different universes going in different directions with different kinds of matter-antimatter content. That's the idea. It's cute. I don't think it's true, but it's cute.
Okay, so that'd be an extension of the work that Carroll did with Chen and more recently Sal. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. From William Matz with the $5. Important scientific question. In terms of planetary designation, should we be Sol 3 as the third planet or Sol Prime as the primary life planet? Okay, I have opinions about this. You know how Vulcans are from Vulcan?
Mm.
Well, I think that we should just rename Earth human.
Technically, we already do that. We're Terrans.
Well, no, but we're humans. We're not Terrans. So we need to rename Earth human.
At least there's a fair bit of sci-fi where we are known as Terrans and we have a Terran empire. In fact, isn't the Terran Empire in the Star
It is.
Trek mirror universe? Okay.
Yes, it is.
So,
but they
so
call Earth
according to-
Terra, right?
Yeah. So in the sacred scriptures of Star Trek, I'm right.
Except not in the Prime universe. In the Prime universe, they're humans. Or
Well,
occasionally, if you're in the Delta Quadrant, they're federations.
However, the mirror universe had the better Giorgio.
That's true. And the better Kira, maybe. No, that's no. Mirror Universe Kira was very horny, though.
That episode was very horny. Fun, but horny, yes.
Yep, always is.
Which
I
leads
like
us to our
Soul
next
3 better. Nobody cares about my opinion, but Soul 3 is better.
Also, actually, you have another thing that goes in your favor, Alexander. We have actually a television show devoted to that name, Third Rock from the Sun.
A
It's got John Lithgow. I think that gives it street cred. All right. Let us go to our next super chat. A generous $5 from Not a Robot, I Swear. The conversation with James had a lot of circles in it. Unfortunately, none were square circles. I think we had at least one four-sided triangle in there, though.
I'm not convinced that this person is not a robot. Nobody else would have to say "not a robot, I swear" if they weren't a robot. Just saying.
It's very similar that only the Messiah would say that they're not the Messiah.
Yeah, exactly. From John Stephen Albert with the $10, very generous. Knowing is half the battle. Unfortunately, the other half of the battle is killing lots and lots of people. That's actually not funny. It's sad, but also funny.
Yeah. To which I would have said, "Yo, Joe," but yeah, a better realization, not so much Joe. Also, I never had the toys. All right.
Oh, okay, fair.
So let's go with, again, from, click that thing. There we go. From Joshua Everett 9887. My personal Trek headcanon is that there is only one being known as Q, but it's non-linear and exists at any point in time. The continuum is just the long, winding life of a one pseudo-infinite being. I think you have more evidence for that than you realize, considering how the last episode of Picard ends, where Q is dead and yet still shows up to see Picard's son. Spoilers, by the way, Picard has a kid.
But the other thing is that we also know that the Q were once an actual biological species, right? So on the other hand, it's just not the case. Unless all but one died off, it's just not the case that there's only one Q.
No, it could be similar to like the one electron theory, that there's one Q going back and forth in time.
But then how would that explain how they were a biological organism at some point in their past?
This is where you bring in Doctor Who and you say wibbly wobbly timey wimey.
Ah, okay, makes sense. Oh no, no, this is real. This is real science. Okay, so we have Mr. Pacho, always generous and always good to see Mr. Pacho. What the hell is gauge gravity duality? You know that wibbly wimey timey wimey stuff that Aaron was just saying? It's that. No, I mean more specifically, it's a more general name for this idea that you can calculate the same observables either in a space-time with gravity or a space-time without gravity, but with a gauge theory. And this is coming from the ADS-CFT correspondence. And gauge theory is complicated, and this is like a conjecture. It's not like even mathematically proven, so. But it's a very deep idea.
Our next one is also deep from, Alicia True Silver 7052. I guess to clarify my point, I hope there is an infinite amount of things to know. I'm not sure there is a finite amount of things to know, but I hope that's not the case. even if it's finite, it can still be so big that we will never reach the end of it. In the same way, in my entire life, if I started counting, I would never count to 1,000,000,000,000 if I go in sequence.
Unless he counted really fast.
I've checked how fast I can speak. It's not fast enough.
1, 2, skip a few, 99, a trillion. There, done.
Thank you.
Also, the number after 99
Yakko.
is a trillion, apparently.
Yes, thank you, Yakko Warner, for that insight.
Exactly. From Elliot K with the $5, I agree. Standard sucks. I only play EDH. Yes, and if you haven't yet, EDH for those boomers who don't know what Commander is, also known as Elder Dragon Highlander, if you haven't yet, you should try competitive EDH. It is, bracket 5 EDH, very fun, good times, can be had by all, and we encourage you to print your cards out on paper instead of buying them. That's all I have
Now,
to say.
for the people who don't know better, I don't know what EDH is, and I'm just bad with acronyms generally. I look at that.
Define it.
Oh,
It's
okay,
Elder Dragon
unfortunately-
Highlander.
Okay, Okay, that did not register in my head because I just look at EDH. I'm like, what could that mean? I'm thinking they're eat the hamburger.
Yeah, with the times, Grandpa.
Back in my day. All right. So I believe we are at our last super chat, at least as we have here, and this comes from Elliot K 1986 as well. So the moon is orbiting a brown dwarf, which itself orbiting a star. Looking for the CD 352766 system. It's wild.
I'm going to right now. And then I'll maybe make a video about it. CD 352722 is a star system located in the constellation of Columba. The system consists of a red dwarf star orbited by a brown dwarf companion. The presence of a Jupiter mass exosatellite orbiting the brown dwarf star has been suspected. Okay, so there's a small star being orbited by a smaller star being orbited by a Jupiter thing. Neat.
Which is also being orbited by a Russian nesting doll.
Which is then being orbited by an invisible teapot.
That's just science.
Of course, yeah. All right, well, that's all we have for today, I think, right? Oh, are we supposed to say things? Aren't there magic words we're supposed to say at the end?
There are some things we should be saying. For example, by the way, we're on the line. This is SkepTalk, one of the
That's
shows
your job.
you're on. Well, just because I failed doesn't mean I'm not going to blame you.
I'm telling Jimmy.
That's what I'm sorry. That's how middle management works. Okay.
Fair. Yeah, I forgot that we're supposed to say that.
It is definitely worth announcing that. Yeah. So we have a whole bunch of other programs here on the line. So today was SkepTalk. Monday nights is SkepTalk. Tomorrow we got Chewed Gum, and we got Call In on Tuesday as well. On Wednesday we have the Hang Up. That's with Matt Dillahunty and his host. I don't know if that's announced yet. No, it looks like it's going to be with Justin of Deconstruction Zone. Then up we have on Thursday we have TACIS, the Transatlantic Call-In Show. We got Jackie and someone to be determined. Saturday we have Devangelicals. That is not Evangelicals No More, where we got Dalton and Justin from Deconstruction Zone. Sunday we got a 2-4 for you. We have not just the well-named Sunday show, we also have the Sunday show After Dark. Right now for the Sunday show, we got Promise and Matt Dillahunty, and then for After Dark, we got Seth and Paul of Paul Logia fame. And of course then, come Monday, we got more SkepTalk, and this is a favorite one. We got the combo of Erica and Forrest. Get your super chats in, get your coffee poured. You know it's going to go for at least 4 hours.
I think they're doing one that's extra long.
We basically just plan to do 8 hours whenever we do the Forrest Erica team up. So yeah, 8 hours.
And Alexander, I see that you're also expected to run that. So again, have your coffee and my condolences.
Yeah, it's like it's a lot of money, so I'll suck it up.
An 8-hour workday, though.
I'll live.
All right.
Is that all we have?
Yep. That's all the big ticket items. And Blitz, thanks for hanging out with me again, that we could talk this with our audience.
Yeah, it was a good time.
You might have been hearing the voice of Alexander, one of our great crew members. We got the mods and screeners making sure good calls come in. We have so many awesome patrons. Patreon, you keep the lights on. Thank you for doing it. Thank you for making this possible. Good night, all y'all heathens.